good evening. Welcome to N2's special coverage. It's finally here. The very first 2024 CNN Presidential Debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Hi, everybody. I'm Bianca de la Garza.
Yes, you are. And I'm John Bachman. It's great to be back with you, Bianca, for this special coverage. We are just 1 hour away from this big showdown. And it's already a historic night, right? Because this is the first time a former president will be debating the current president.
Yeah, and there's a lot of rules, as we've been, aware of for days, and now we are just an hour away. It's also the earliest debate in election by any cycle so far. A lot of controversy about the setup. You're looking live here. Of course, there's the muted microphone, John. You have the spin room, which is actually nowhere near the debate stage. I think there's like a street away from it. And now we're hearing that the White House Correspondents Association upset because they wanted a pool camera, and they can't get one in. Yeah,
it's kind of a weird situation where you're covering this event that you have no real access to what's going on. You're not going to be able to see it with your own eyes. There's going to be nobody in there except for the people that CNN want in that room. So there's going to be a lot of emphasis, obviously, on the spin room. There'll be a lot of journalists. Some are already there, including our own campaign staff and surrogates. They're gathering there tonight. We've seen Gavin Newsom making his way around the spin room.
That hair.
Yeah, it's impressive. So just say what you will about Gavin Newsom. You can't fault him for that haircut. Now, this is all located in the McCamish Pavilion on the campus of Georgia Tech. It used to be called the Alexander Memorial Coliseum when I was growing up. Some people know of it as the Thriller Dome.
Oh, okay. Well, there's going to be some thrills.
There'll be some thrills in the spin room tonight. That's right, Bianca.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you talked about Gavin Newsom, too, and the fact that this debate is so early. There's still that chit-chatter whether or not, Joe Biden will be the eventual nominee. And we know Newsom's come out and said Joe Biden is the master class. They've done all those photo ops out there in the Golden State. So it's interesting to see him out there spinning for him. But it is truly going to be a make it or break it a night, for many say, for Joe Biden. A lot of pressure on him versus Donald Trump, not so much.
Yeah, and I think, a clip we've played this week, I'm sure you probably have as well, that Van Jones clip where he said, this is it. This is the whole entire election. If Joe Biden has some sort of short circuit moment, it could be it for his campaign.
It could, but he certainly had plenty of rest, a historic amount of rest now, 7 days up at Camp David. And now, again, we are just under an hour away from the debate to begin. Speaking of Gavin Newsom, our own James Rosen was the one speaking with him recently. He is in the spin room. James, we're going to welcome you in right now. Obviously, Newsom's there to do his job there to be in for Biden, but a lot of Trump surrogates as well, I'm sure, floating around.
John and Bianca, good evening. Spin room is a 1980s term. What we have here is a spin arena. This is a place the size of a small basketball arena, and the surrogates and the media people are all milling about as the anticipation has been building here all day. The Biden-Harris campaign has spent upwards of 7 figures just today to try and shape perceptions ahead of the big event. So, for example, around Metro Atlanta, 50 billboards popped up today with pro-Biden messaging. And also the campaign has done what they call a takeover of various digital news sites on the internet. So, for example, if you log in to CNN's website or Telemundo or BuzzFeed, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and others, you will be bombarded by pro-Biden-Harris advertising messages. They even took out a full-page ad talking about legacy media in USA Today. Today, the top half of that ad shows a black and white image unflattering of former President Trump and calls him a convicted felon who's only out for himself. Beneath that is a color photo of President Biden wearing aviators and waving and saying that he's a president who's fighting for you and your family. This previews the themes that we expect to hear from President Biden tonight, that his opponent is unfit for the presidency. Now, both men face vulnerabilities and have primary objectives tonight. And by the way, the Trump campaign only spent about $100,000 trying to shape perceptions ahead of this event. For former President Trump, it's critical that he not lose control of that famous temper of his, that he stay focused on policy failures of the Biden administration and on his own plans for the future, rather than relitigating 2020 or wallowing too deeply in the politics of grievance. For President Biden, the key task is to convince voters that he's up to the job physically and cognitively, and also to reframe this debate, as that pre-debate advertising was seeking to do, not as a referendum on his record, but rather as a choice election. Finally, there is one strain attendant upon former President Trump tonight that President Biden doesn't face. And that is to say there's only one candidate on that stage tonight of whom it can be said that everything he says can and might be used against him in a court of law, indeed in a court here in Fulton County in Georgia, as there are 3 criminal proceedings still awaiting former President Trump. So it's going to be an extraordinary event, an unprecedented one for some of the reasons we've mentioned. John and Bianca.
James Rosen in the spin room. Thanks, James.
All right, let's welcome in our first guest, host of The Pulse here on N2, David Harris, and also host of the Leventhal Report, Rick Leventhal, joining us now. Gentlemen, great to see you both.
Thank you. Great to be here. Nice to see you guys. Thank you. All
right, David, let's start with you. How do you think, I know obviously the moderators at CNN are going to control this, but how do you think Donald Trump comes out of the gate tonight?
Well, what I hope the president does is I hope that he addresses the American people. There's so many issues that Americans are facing right now. Everywhere they turn, whether they're opening up the refrigerator to see how few groceries they have, whether they're turning on their car and they're worried about how much gas they're going to have in their car, whether they're thinking about the fact that they haven't been able to take a vacation, whether they're just thinking about safety and security as they see and continually hear about so many American citizens, women and children that have been either raped or murdered underneath Joe Biden's watch. I hope the president, he speaks to the American people on the issues. I think that, we're going to see a lot of mumbling and jumbling from Joe Biden. They're probably going to use that 2-minute we hear. Potentially there's going to be up to a 2-minute delay from the actual feed before the American people see it. So who knows what's going to take place in there if that is accurate. But what I do hope that the president does is he stays his presidential self. The man has a proven track record. We don't have to guess at how he conducts policy. We don't have to guess on whether or not he's going to put America first. We already seen it. The first 3 years of his presidency were amazing. Security was, our border was secure. The stock market was booming. People's 401ks were great. Americans felt safe. We felt like we were living the American dream. And then COVID hits. So underneath Joe Biden, these last 3.5 years, it's been an absolute disaster. So I'm pretty sure the president has quite enough ammunition underneath his belt to be able to bring out any question whatsoever that Joe's not going to be able to answer, other than just probably try to mumble jumble, turn around and then blame it on Republicans or blame it on Trump. But I know that we're going to see a very strong President Trump tonight, and who knows what state Joe Biden is going to be in. Hopefully he can stay standing for the entire 90 minutes.
Hopefully. I mean, the bar is so low. That's really going to be considered a accomplishment. Karine Jean-Pierre, the press gaggle gentleman, would not respond when a reporter asked what would he possibly be on if he was going to be, revved up on something. She said, I won't dignify that with an answer. I just want to play this. CNN, we know, has this muted microphone set up here. They actually put out an explainer as if Americans need to understand what a green light is and what a microphone is. Let's just play this. And Rick, I want to get your reaction on the flip.
If we go behind the podiums, you can see 2 green lights. When they're on, they signal to the candidate his microphone is on. When the green lights are off, they signal to the candidate his microphone is off. He's going to interrupt me as I'm speaking, and this is what it will sound like. My volume remains constant, while Phil's interruption can be difficult to understand.
He's going to interrupt me. My volume remains constant, while Victor's interruption can be difficult to understand. Shared this demonstration with the campaigns earlier today, and we're sharing it with you, our viewers, so everyone fully understands how tomorrow night will work.
Oh my goodness! Yes, it's not parody, Rick. They want you to know this is the rules.
Wow. I'm sorry. Can I watch that again?
No, you can't. You can't. I've seen
How does it work?
Wait, we're going to shut your microphone off.
Are you telling me when the mic's off, you can't hear me? Is that how it works?
Shut his mic off. Let me talk.
Can you hear me now?
It's part of this.
I'm more concerned not with the microphones, but with what the 2 moderators do with their time, with their questions. I don't expect it to be fair, but I really hope they at least try to make this fair, because up until now, of course, they haven't been fair with Donald Trump. They weren't fair with him when he was in the White House, and they've been far less than fair since he left the White House. So there's very little likelihood that they're going to be fair tonight. But they have an opportunity to do that. They're on a big stage. They keep telling us that they're going to have the highest ratings they've ever had, which may well be true, but I am encouraging our viewers to keep it right here. I hope that, more people watch it on other platforms and give CNN less, feathers in their cap. It's really important that they ask the right questions, that they ask pointed questions, that they push Joe Biden on the border crisis, that they push him on the millions of people who've come in illegally, far more than ever in history have come across the border in the last 3 years. Why is that? And why doesn't he close the border completely when he sees so many of these immigrants who are here illegally murdering and raping our citizens? It's an absolute travesty, and that should be the focus, the biggest issue at tonight's debate.
Yeah, I think if they don't focus a lot of time on the economy and on immigration, the two issues that most people care about, it'll be a lost opportunity. They're going to want to talk about abortion a lot. They'll bring that up. But I think, those two issues, we got to hear the most on that.
I mean, it's a closed set. They're not even, as we came out of the air, we told you, White House Correspondents Association blasting CNN, saying that it is, quote, deeply concerned that it has rejected repeated requests to include White House travel pool. So, again, we'll keep our, reservations, open mind. Let's see how they do it. But you're right. Who is asking the questions, of course, controls sort of the direction of the narrative. But to David and Rick's point, Donald Trump can certainly ask his own tough questions of Joe Biden if need be.
That's true. All right. We got to run, guys. Great to see you both.
Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
All right. Sorry to cut you off, Rick.
Great to see you, too. Have a great show.
We'll be with them hopefully later this evening as well. Rick Leventhal and David Harris Jr., two of our colleagues here on N2. Yeah, fantastic. They'll be with us for some of the post-show as well. Let's continue our pre-show right now. Pleased to bring in Florida Congressman Greg Steube with some pre-show analysis here. Obviously, Congressman, a lot on the line for Joe Biden and a lot of rest he's had. It's incredible. The world's on fire, yet Joe Biden had 90 minutes here tonight. He's more worried about that. Tell us what you are expecting tonight out of Joe Biden, out of Donald Trump, sir.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is, like you said, the bar is so low. If the guy doesn't fall getting up to the stage or shuffle across the stage and be able to complete a sentence, the American people are surprised that that's actually a well-done job for Joe Biden. But all Trump has to talk about is his record for 4 years and the current state of the economy, the current state of our country, the current state of immigration, national security, you name it. You can talk from Afghanistan to Ukraine to Israel to the 12 million illegals that have been allowed to come into our country. I just had a couple months ago, a citizen of my district raped by an illegal immigrant. So it's not just the border states, it's all across the country. So Trump's going to have plenty of things that he can talk about, but you're also right. I'm curious to see how CNN reporters are going to lead the discussion, because obviously they're going to try to prop up Joe Biden as much as they can. I hope that they don't do that, but I'm sure that they're probably going to do that as much as possible.
One of the things, too, I think that we've seen is the Biden campaign, they want to act like they're above it all, like he's better than Donald Trump. Cedric Richmond, who is one of the Biden campaign co-chairs, he was asked if Donald Trump deserves a handshake from Joe Biden. Here's what he said.
Should President Biden shake Donald Trump's hand? Does he deserve that?
Well, that's up to President Biden. And I'm sure there's no love lost there. I wouldn't shake his hand.
I mean, if that's how it's going to start, and then there's Casey Hunt again, who cut off Carolyn Levitt earlier this week, the disrespect. I mean, I think that's what we're going to see, a lot of that tonight, the condescension, the disrespect. And, Donald Trump is a major party nominee, the Republican nominee for the White House.
Yeah, Trump should walk over and extend his hand for a shake and let Joe Biden, blow him off and see how that plays with independents and mainstream Americans. It's pretty crazy that they're even asking that question, that Joe Biden isn't going to shake Donald Trump's hand. But Trump needs to be the bigger man here and do those type of things. I think if he comes off as putting out the policies that were successful, not being goaded into anything that Biden's going to try to goad him into, and just focus on the things that he did great, which is the economy, immigration, national security, all of the things that if you look at polling, Americans trust him more. They trust trust Trump more than Joe Biden. Focus on that and how you're going to change these horrible policies that Joe Biden has had, and I think he's going to have an excellent night.
Congressman Steube, before we let you go, these her tapes, the audio, the transcript's been released. Merrick Garland will not release the audio. We know tomorrow Congressman Anna Paulina may try to force a House vote to hold him in inherent contempt. Speaker Johnson says he will try and sue over these her tapes. It's somewhat reminiscent, some say, of the Hunter Biden laptop in 2020. Do you think it comes up at tonight's debate? The laptop most certainly will, but with these her tapes, again, there's something they do not want us to hear. Maybe it's Joe Biden's cognitive, issues here, so damaging, could be the nail in the coffin if Americans were to hear them.
Yeah, and I 100% support that. Tomorrow I will vote for that if that comes up as a vote on the floor. Merrick Garland is completely avoiding the illegal oversight authority that Congress has over them, and he's completely ignoring that. We absolutely should hold him accountable to that, and that's exactly what the Biden administration is doing. You have a Republican House that is trying to hold them accountable and subpoenaing them and asking for information, and they're just ignoring it. They'll probably give it to us after November, but that's not when the American people want to see it. We need to stand for truth and stand for the law, and I hope that they bring that vote tomorrow.
All right, Congressman Greg Steube, thanks for being with us tonight, sir.
Thank you, Congressman.
Yeah, anytime. Good to see you.
All right, stay with us as we count down to the CNN Debate Simulcast, which you can watch right here on N2 tonight. We'll have expert analysis ahead, as well as the man who's been spending a lot of time with President Trump, Florida Congressman Byron Donalds. He was in Atlanta yesterday, too, for that barbershop roundtable. We'll talk to Congressman Donalds right after this.
Stressed and fatigued? Brain feeling foggy? Don't have the energy you used to? It may be your liver. You must protect your body's most precious asset. Best-selling author and surgeon Dr. Russell Blaylock has developed natural solutions. His breakthrough new book, The Liver Cure, will help you boost energy, detoxify your body, clear brain fog, and reignite your metabolism. Improve your health and quality of life. Get The Liver Cure today.
Cars will break down, and when they do, it's too late. If your car is out of warranty, it leaves you with two choices: get stuck paying for expensive repairs, or one phone call to CarShield. Their administrators pay for your covered repairs so you don't have to. Your coverage includes roadside assistance, towing, rental, and so much more. Plus, with their nationwide network, you choose the mechanic or dealer. Best of all, there's coverage for every wallet size. Make the smart call before it's too late. Call CarShield today.
Attention, all users of the Weed Killer Roundup. If you or a loved one were diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma after using the Weed Killer Roundup, you may qualify for financial compensation. Call Liberty Legal to determine your eligibility now.
800-549-4412.
In August 2021, a California judge ordered Monsanto to pay $87 million in damages to a couple who were both exposed to Roundup and later diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. It has been determined in court that Monsanto failed to warn Roundup users that the glyphosate in Roundup was a probable cancer-causing carcinogen. If you or a loved one were diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma or any other cancer after using Roundup, call Liberty Legal now to see if you qualify for financial compensation. There may be time deadlines, so don't wait. It costs you nothing if you don't win.
Call 800-549-4412. That's 800-549-4412. 800-549-4412.
Some breaking news. Famed political strategist Dick Morris says Donald Trump is running for president. Few people know President Trump better than Dick Morris. For years, Morris has served as his top advisor. Now, in his new bestseller, The Return, Dick reveals Trump's secret plan for 2024, his real reason for running, and his coming surprise announcement. Dick says Trump still faces 3 threats, but Biden can never be reelected. Newsmax calls The Return the only political book you need to read. It's already an Amazon #1 bestseller. If you want to see Trump's plan, Dick Morris shares it. Big media, big tech, and the deep state all want to stop Trump. But The Return shows they'll fail, and Trump will triumph. Get Dick Morris's The Return in bookstores everywhere, or see the free offer from Newsmax. Go online or call today.
All right, can you feel it? The anticipation, it's building right now for tonight's 2024 presidential debate.
It is.
Looks like we are, 21 minutes away from the beginning of the debate. The CNN simulcast will air right here on N2. You'll see former President Trump and President Biden on the stage. Now, that is the spin room. We'll see a lot of the spin room after the debate.
Yes.
And that's going to be where a lot of the post-debate coverage will take place. But let's get out now to Florida Congressman Byron Donalds. He's in the middle of all the action there in Atlanta in the spin room. Congressman, great to have you with us.
It's good to be with you guys. How you doing this evening?
All right, we know you're ready. I mean, we're going to obviously watch the debate, but there's going to be a lot of surrogates in that spin room after the fact. And considering that the deck has kind of been stacked against Donald Trump, how are you getting ready for the post-debate spin room, Congressman?
Everything is about the American people. Immigration, inflation, what's going to happen with tax policy, our economy and the strength that we need here at home, securing our border, foreign policy. Those are the issues that the American people care about. The media and Joe Biden, they can talk about January 6th. They can talk about that travesty in Lower Manhattan where Donald Trump's constitutional rights were violated. But at the end of the day, what matters is who has a vision for the American people going forward. Right now, it's Donald Trump. After this debate tonight, it'll still be Donald Trump. It's going to be a great night for him.
A vision, too, for the American dream. So many people, prosperity, it feels like such a, far reach to own a home, the younger generation. You were at the barber shop event yesterday where Donald Trump spoke to you on the telephone call, but he's really been good about communicating and speaking directly to the American voters, unlike Biden, who's been holed up at Camp David. Democrats are obviously going to be in their spin. Your words got spun recently when you talked about Jim Crow. What do you expect tonight? Any tricks you think they have up their sleeve or anything you'd be on the lookout for with these moderators, Congressman Donalds?
Well, look, first and foremost, I think it's in the best interest of CNN and, frankly, the big media that they stop doing all this stuff where they interject their opinions. Let the elected officials, let the candidates make their pitch directly. Let the issues actually speak for themselves, but they can't help themselves. I think the biggest thing we got to be concerned about, in my view, is will Jake Tapper or Dana Bash interrupt President Trump when he's trying to get to the key point of his argument? Are they going to constantly throw in things that might be great for the political circus of cable news, but don't matter whatsoever to the American people? That's the stuff you got to be concerned about. But I think when Donald Trump's ready for all this, he's going to pivot directly back to the issues that are ailing America and the failure brought to us by the master of disaster himself, Joe Biden.
What is the one message that Donald Trump needs to hammer home tonight about Joe Biden and his policies? What is the most important thing that comes across to those voters out there, Congressman, who are not decided yet?
The number one thing is that Joe Biden has no interest in fixing these problems. He created most of them, frankly, all of them. He's not going to fix them because the radicals in his administration aren't going to let him do it. And then the other key concern is, can he be president for 4 more years? We talked about it at the top of this segment. He was held up for 8 days at Camp David getting prepared for a debate. Are you kidding me? The president of the United States, especially in the state that America is in right now, has got to be prepared to be on the job every single day. We know Donald Trump can do that. Joe Biden simply cannot. He proved that for the last week.
And the state the world is in. So we heard the VP candidate is in the House.
He's there tonight.
Is it you, or is there? Do you know who it is? Want to break some news, Congressman?
I do not know. I'm not going to break any news. I do not know. Look, President Trump's going to make that decision. Yeah, he's going to make a great decision, but I'll tell you this. The people on that list, they all will be significantly better than what's going on in the Biden-Harris administration. I will tell you that. It's a great list. We have great talent. He's going to make a great decision. We're going to move on and be focused on November and be focused on winning.
All right, we'll talk to you later, Congressman Byron Donalds.
Can't blame a girl for trying.
Yeah,
Thanks,
true.
Congressman. Good to see you.
You gotta ask. You don't ask, the answer is always no, right?
That's right. All right, let's continue this conversation right now. White House Washington reporter for Politico, Daniel Littman.
And Aaron Perini is back with us, GOP strategist as well. Great to see you both.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right, so let's try to take a look back at some of these post-debate moments with Donald Trump to see if we can gauge what we're going to see tonight. I think we can say both candidates are probably different than they were the last time around, but let's take a look.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Let me just, he wants to be a tough guy. A lot of times you'll have, and it doesn't work very well with
How tough is it to take property from an elderly woman?
Let me talk. Quiet.
How tough is it?
A lot of times, that's all of his donors and special interests out there.
Some really great moments.
Yeah. The thing I think we're going to be looking closely is which Donald Trump we're going to see. And those types of moments, I think, will not be able to happen tonight because the mics will be muted at different times. Aaron, what kind of performance do you want to see from Donald Trump tonight?
President Trump would be best served to make sure he is taking a measured response this evening, that he is staying in the middle. Joe Biden, as we've seen through reporting, is interested in trying to knock him off his mark, get him upset, get him flustered. Donald Trump is very good at staying in his lane and talking about the policy and forward-looking, because everything Donald Trump can say tonight is, if it's the economy, if it's immigration, I can change immigration. Look at what I did 4 years ago. I can make the economy better. Look at what I've done before. He can provide a forward-looking policy position, but also just very quickly nod to the fact that he's already had these successes. But he cannot let Joe Biden get him off his mark whatsoever.
It's been really good with some of the policies. No taxes on tips at the Nevada rally, sitting with those business leaders, talking about AI, listening, really wooing and getting the ears of Silicon Valley, big liberal town. Daniel, the New York Times Siena survey showing Trump with a 6-point lead over Biden, 6 points, 48-42. If Biden doesn't pull it together tonight, you think that lead could grow even bigger? Is this make it or break it tonight for Joe Biden?
Well, most Americans are going to be watching, and there are still some people who are undecided. And so I think Biden has more at stake in this debate than Trump, because if the election if this is kind of a no one wins, no one loses, then this helps Trump, because Biden really needs to shake up the margin of this race, the trajectory, and so he needs to have some big moments. He needs to put Trump on his back feet and kind of paint him as this extremist who would end democracy and would only look out for his own interests and not for the American people. And so you're already seeing the ads calling Trump kind of an out-of-touch billionaire and someone who is only focused on himself and saving himself from criminal trials.
Yeah, we've been hearing that. Probably hear some convicted felons sprinkled in, a little abortion, a little J6, all of that. We'll see, though. It is those independent voters in those battleground states that will have to be convinced otherwise.
And, we, of course, everyone knows who's been paying attention to this, and probably most of the people watching tonight know that Donald Trump is a convicted felon. So how much, power is that type of phrasing going to have for Joe Biden, and how will Donald Trump respond? Aaron, one of the things that we know that Democrats and Joe Biden have been working on, all 16 or 17 people that have been prepping Joe Biden this week, how do they get under Donald Trump's skin? What do you expect them to do?
I would not be shocked if the first time publicly you hear Joe Biden call Donald Trump a felon. That would be a very aggressive stance and a very aggressive comment by the president toward the former president. And that is something that I don't anticipate would rattle Donald Trump, but it's something that would certainly make headlines. And to Daniel's point, Joe Biden here has everything to gain and everything to lose all at once, because this, for Joe Biden, is really the test. This is why this debate is early, because Joe Biden is behind in the polls and he's trying to make up ground. So he is going to do everything and throw everything he can at Donald Trump, because he thinks that will knock him off his mark and get Trump to be bombastic and yelling and argumentative and very hot-headed. But Donald Trump is aware of all of this. So while Biden's team thinks that they're being creative with 16 people in a room, Donald Trump is very quick on his feet. That's what makes him a sharp debater. That's what gives you those kind of viral moments. And those are the things that campaigns can use to their benefit. But I will be very clear here. Joe Biden is the one that is already on his back foot and backpedaling, because this is a make or break moment for his campaign.
All right. Daniel Lippman, Aaron Perini, we'll be seeing you guys tonight. Enjoy the debate, which is almost 30 minutes away, getting closer. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. It is high stakes, high drama, and it is 30 minutes away. You can watch the CNN debate right here, simulcast on N2. We'll be bringing it to you live. John and I will be back after a very quick break with more pre-debate analysis. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, folks. We're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
Hi folks, Joe Namath here.
And if you're having a hard time hearing, call MD Hearing because they changed my life and they can change yours too. I was wearing expensive hearing aids for years until a good friend of mine told me about MD Hearing. I bought a pair of the hearing aids with no doctor visit, no prescription, and no hassle. I got fitted right over the phone and I've never had a better pair of hearing aids. I'm even wearing them right now.
Call now and get 2 rechargeable Neo hearing aids for just $297 with a free portable charging case and free shipping. The rechargeable Neo is nearly invisible with its tiny in-the-ear canal design. And you can get 2 rechargeable Neo hearing aids with a 45-day risk-free trial, free shipping, and free lifetime US-based support for only $297.
Call my friends at MD Hearing and get the over-the-counter hearing aids that I use for you.
Call 800-381-4294.
Hi, folks, we're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. If you're new to Medicare, recently moved, or losing coverage, you may qualify for enrollment in a Medicare Advantage plan, so make sure you know your Medicare ABCs. You may be familiar with Medicare Parts A and B, but if you are thinking about Part C, also called a Medicare Advantage plan, speak with a licensed insurance agent to see what plans and benefits are available in your area. Our partners offer plans from Humana, Aetna, Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Kaiser Permanente, Cigna Healthcare, WellCare, so you can compare your options, coverage, and pricing across multiple carriers. If you're new to Medicare, recently moved, or losing coverage, make the free call to the number on your screen, give them your zip code, and a licensed insurance agent will walk you through the entire process. It's that easy.
I just became eligible for Medicare, so I called to find a plan that fits my budget.
For a free, no-obligation consultation,
call 800-480-8716.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
Welcome back. So glad you're joining us. Bianca Garza here with John Bachman. You're watching our live pre-show here as we await the CNN Presidential Debate, a historic showdown, of course. Former President Trump and Joe Biden will take that stage. And Joe Biden's had plenty of rest, so we'll see how he actually performs now. It is getting close to showtime there.
You know, I heard James Rosen say earlier that the whole idea of the spin room was came about in the 1980s, and now it's morphed into this, what you see here on your screen, this massive arena where the post-debate action will take place. And, you know, while we're all kind of processing what the candidates are saying during the debate, those surrogates out there, we're looking at a picture now of a group of Republicans who are on their way to the debate, and we were talking about the VP being in the room tonight. Tim Scott's there, Marco Rubio is there, Ben Carson is there, J.D. Vance is there, Mark Wayne Mullins with this crew, Elise Stefanik and many others. And they'll all be in this spin room, we believe, after the debate, talking about what Donald Trump, so that's what they're going to do. But let's bring in now Joe Pinion, GOP strategist, former Senate candidate from New York. And, you know, Joe, this is going to be a very unique kind of situation for the spin room because the way this debate is set up, so many advantages for Joe Biden. You know, whatever happens during the debate, it's really going to be kind of cemented in that spin room.
Well, look, I think the question becomes, do we have an honest accounting of the last 4 years of Joe Biden. We talked about this last night on Prime News. Are we going to discuss the fact that we hit a 10-year high for actual defaults for credit card debt and also auto debt under Joe Biden's watch? Are we going to talk about the fact that nearly 600,000 Americans are defaulted on their car payments on Joe Biden's watch? The southern border, where we have a fentanyl crisis that is killing 204 Americans every single day. Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer called it a Republican talking point. So everyday Americans are feeling the brunt of a failed presidency. Are those issues going to be brought up by these moderators? If they are not, then, as many people have talked about, this is not a debate. This is a forum for Joe Biden to spread disinformation to the nation, while the people that have been given constitutional rights to ensure that the people of this country, the citizenry, are informed, actually never get to have the answers to the issues afflicting this nation answered.
Yeah, and that's why Donald Trump was saying it's basically 3 against 1 as he walks into that lion's den of a room tonight. He'll handle it well, though. I don't think he'll be baited. That's just my opinion, Joe. We heard that from Laura Trump. CNN's only allowing 2 people to be in where this, closed set, if you will, is outside of the spin room. But what you speak about is so true. The American people hurting, and it is the radical Democratic Party. We saw this week Jamal Bowman being booted of the squad. Most expensive primary race there. But there does seem to be a rejection, and the Democratic Party itself is sort of eating their own here as Americans are looking and saying, I don't want any of this, whether it be blacks or Latinos or just, as you said, voters who are just saying my bank account is depleted. This is not a Democratic Party that's speaking to anyone except maybe the elites, maybe Gavin Newsom, who's there.
Well, look, I think, again, Democrats have been prolific at getting people to ignore the pain and suffering that is impacting their lives every single day. I think Republicans have to acknowledge that reality and find a way to push back. And so I think it would behoove the president in this debate, if they're going to mute his mic, to spend his time asking Joe Biden the questions that the moderators are clearly not going to ask him. To ask Joe Biden why he undermined the safest, securest border we have seen in the modern history of this nation. And now we have 8 million people flooding our southern border. To ask Joe Biden, how is it possible that we went from 12 people on the terrorist watch list under his 4 years to over 300 people on the terrorist watch list being apprehended in just 3.5 years under Joe Biden? We heard yesterday that we have over 400 people that have been smuggled into this country by an actual terrorist organization connected to ISIS. And we don't know where at least 50 of them are. These are real issues that no one is talking about. I pray that we hear about them on the debate stage tonight, but if we don't, it indicates that every single dirty trick has been pulled out to ensure that they can try to grease Joseph Robinette Biden back into office while actually leaving this country bare and insecure.
All right, Joe Pinion, great to see you, Joe. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, we appreciate you, and we will be back after a very quick break here. Again, the CNN debate is simulcast right here on N2, so you can keep it right here. We're back in a moment.
Hi, folks, we're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
He was a graduate of West Point, accepted an Air Force commission, was a seasoned fighter pilot, graduated from MIT with a degree in aeronautics and astronautics, and winner of the Presidential Medal of Freedom. But the world will always know him as the second man to walk on the moon. Born on January 20th, 1930 in Montclair, New Jersey, Edwin Eugene Aldrin Jr. was the son of an Air Force colonel and a mother who would strongly influence his life. Coincidentally, her maiden name was Marion Moon.
Because his younger sister couldn't pronounce the word brother, she'd refer to him as her Buzzer. Later, his family shortened it to Buzz, a name that stuck with him throughout his professional career. As a veteran of the Gemini program, where he spent 5 hours walking in space, he, together with Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins, were selected to crew Apollo 11. On July 16, 1969, they lifted off on their historic journey. The trip would take 3 days to travel the 238,855 miles to the moon. The journey went smoothly until it came time to touch down on the lunar surface.
Start alarm. Roger, 1201 alarm.
With 17 seconds of fuel to spare, Eagle 1 lands, and Armstrong and Aldrin step onto the moon and into history. You're watching An American Life on Newsmax TV.
Attention families with a loved one in a nursing home. If your loved one has suffered from bed sores, falls, broken bones, dehydration, or even death, you may be entitled to a substantial settlement. If you have a loved one who is injured in a nursing home, we will find out what happened. State violations are found against nursing homes every day. You have a limited time to file your claim, so don't wait. Call 800-710-5444 and speak with one of our attorneys. The call is confidential and free.
If you're new to Medicare, recently moved, or losing coverage, you may qualify for a special enrollment period, and you might have questions about Medicare Advantage plans. Like, how is the Medicare Advantage plan different from original Medicare? The Medicare Advantage plan often offers additional benefits that original Medicare does not cover. What plan benefits are available? Plan and plan benefits vary by where you live. Our partners offer plans from Humana, Aetna, Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Kaiser Permanente, Cigna Healthcare, WellCare, so you can compare your options, coverage, and pricing across multiple carriers. How do I check my eligibility? If you're new to Medicare, recently moved, or losing your coverage, it's easy. Make the free call to the number on your screen. Give them your zip code. Choose the plan with the benefits that meets your needs and budget. The call and consultation are free, and there is no obligation.
I just became eligible for Medicare, so I called to find a plan that fits my budget.
Call 800-416-7175.
Of the election cycle is upon us. We are 15 minutes away from the CNN presidential debate. Welcome into our pre-debate show right here on Newsmax 2. I'm Bianca Garza, along with John Bachman, and the stage right there is, well, it's not there because that's a spin room,
right.
and CNN won't let us see the stage.
That's right. We will see the stage at 9 o'clock tonight. Let's bring in political analyst Mark Halpern to talk about the debate and everything that is on the line. Mark, thanks for being here. Great to see you.
Hey, Mark.
I've got my off camera, my Diet Coke and my peanut M&M, so I'm ready.
All right, I was going to ask you what is your debate snack of choice, but he answered the question.
Why off camera?
M&Ms and Diet Coke.
Now I'm not sure it is that. Maybe it's something stronger.
Well, we don't want to spill.
Well, Diet Coke is made in Atlanta, I think, so that's appropriate. And the peanut M&Ms, peanuts are of course Jimmy Carter, Atlanta. So
that's right,
Georgia.
Right.
So it's all very local.
If you're really a Georgian, you put your peanuts in your Coca-Cola.
Wow.
Which is
don't do that after the segment.
I boil them. And it's all washed down with a peach cobbler chaser.
That's right. That's right. And
calories don't count on debate night.
Let's get to it, Mark Halpern. You know, there are a few things that Donald Trump and Joe Biden need to accomplish. Now, let's kind of run through what you think is the most important thing that Donald Trump must accomplish tonight.
To be presidential and calm and strong, and to try to make as much debate as possible about Joe Biden's record on crime, immigration, and the economy.
Well, we'll see if that can happen. And Joe Biden, we have about 20 seconds left. Because of all this rest, does he pull through maybe a fairly good performance tonight?
I mean, if they can't get a good performance out of him, letting him rest and study for a week, I think the world's got a problem. If I had to bet, I bet he'll be fine. But you don't know. The body language from the Biden folks is remarkably confident. And they seem to be basically saying, you'll see. Maybe we'll see. Maybe he will. Like I said, if I had to bet, he'd have to be in really bad shape to not be able to do a 90-minute debate after enough time off to grow a beard.
Yeah, we will see in exactly 16 minutes. Mark Halpern, without a beard, and with
his snacks.
Yes, with his snacks. Thanks. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Good to see you.
Good to see you both.
All right, let's get out to the spin room now, where Mike Carter is standing by with the latest there. Hey, Mike.
Hey guys, good evening. Well, as we count down the minutes to 9 o'clock in the first presidential debate between a current president and a former president, look, this is all going to come down to the expectation game. Who can win? Who will come out with people scratching their heads saying, boy, is that our guy? To that end, Donald Trump has said that Joe Biden, he is both a worthy debater, and in the past he said, well, he's the worst debater. So which is it? Well, we asked the governor of California tonight, a Biden surrogate, Gavin Newsom. He was here on the spin room floor just a few minutes ago. Look, if President Biden doesn't fulfill the expectations to show up tonight and at least, well, let's say show up and perform, what will happen? A lot of people will be calling for his name to get booted off the ticket and then for Gavin Newsom to go on it. What does Gavin Newsom think about that opinion?
I've been doing this a little while. I've spent a little time on some of the conservative networks. I tend to pay a lot of attention to them. This is intentional mishigash. It's complete nonsense. It's all a sideshow in order to create anxiety and uncertainty and to weaken this candidacy. So I'm not even playing in the frame. That's not even in question. There is no doubt about any of that, period, full stop.
Thank you so much. All right, and we are here with Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. We just ran into you. I know you have another hit to do in a moment, but we just played a sound from Governor Gavin Newsom. We're talking about expectations tonight. I asked him, what happens if President Biden doesn't show up tonight and perform to what a lot of folks say, hey, look, he needs to perform at? Are we going to start hearing ramblings, questions about Biden getting off the ticket, someone else like him getting on the ticket? What are the expectations for President Biden and for President Trump tonight?
Well, first of all, it's unacceptable that Joe Biden had to go to debate camp for an entire week. Meanwhile, the world is in chaos. We have a weakened national security. We have a catastrophic border crisis because of Joe Biden's failed policies. So what I believe the American people will see tonight is the strength and the strong record of President Trump, his America First vision that delivered a secure border, a booming economy, peace through strength around the world, and unleashed energy independence. Compare that with Bidenflation, the war on American energy that Joe Biden's policies put into place on day one, a wide open border that is a humanitarian crisis. So we will see that stark contrast today, and I know the American people are looking forward to viewing the debate.
All right, Congressman, I know you have to run. Thank you so much for your time tonight. We'll send it back to you guys.
To get that in there with Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. Thank you, Mike.
Potential VP candidate. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Or more right after this on N2.
Moral principles of the Judeo-Christian faith and the God of that tradition are found throughout the Declaration of Independence. Most presidents of the United States have declared their faith in God and have encouraged us to read the Bible. I'm encouraged to believe that Americans at this hour are striving to retain their spiritual identity despite the inroads of materialism and the rising tide of permissivism. On the front page of a Chicago newspaper some time ago, there appeared a picture of Betsy Ross sewing the first American flag. And over the picture was the caption, "Time to check our stitches." Let's check the stitches of racism that still persist in America. Let's check the stitches of poverty that bind some of our countrymen. Let's check the stitches of foreign policy to be sure that our objectives and goals are in keeping with the American dream.
Now you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen, the portable oxygen concentrator that moves with you.
This little box changed my life. I can now do all those things that I want to do. You just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
Inogen portable oxygen systems are small and light and deliver up to 12 hours of medical-grade oxygen on a single charge.
Now that I've got my Inogen, I've got my freedom back. I'm back to living again.
Call us right now. Try an Inogen system for 30 days risk-free.
This right here is confidence in a bottle. It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home, so we applied it to his under eye bags, and let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view, and now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work after your first application. Call the number on your screen.
Call 800-316-6394.
I heard you weren't too happy with this particular network, Fox, but I was watching. Yeah, I understand you exactly, but not exactly friendly. Greg Kelly over at Newsmax. The Newsmax people have been really, really terrific. Newsmax has been terrific.
President Trump is right. Millions are tired of Fox, and they're switching to Newsmax Plus. It's the fastest growing streaming service in America. You don't need woke Disney and Hulu anymore. Just get Newsmax Plus. Watch the best shows like Greg Kelly, Rob Schmidt, Greta Van Susteren, and Carl Higbee. And get incredible analysis from Dick Morris, Alan Dershowitz, Carrie Lake, Mike Huckabee, and more. It's free to start. So go to NewsMaxPlus.com now to sign up and watch Newsmax anytime, anywhere.
Back. We are less than 10 minutes away now from the CNN Simulcast debate, which you can watch right here on N2. John Bachman alongside Bianca de la Garza.
It is incredible to watch the spin room here as the surrogates for Biden continue to say that this is going to be a strong night for him. We know he's had plenty of rest, but a lot more seems to be on the line as some of the Democrats have said he should not be even talking about his policies, that they may try to bait Donald Trump into some type of emotional outburst. Doesn't seem like Donald Trump will be taking the bait. He landed just a short time ago. We know this is a make it or break it night, though, it looks like, with the polls showing President Biden behind Donald Trump, especially in those key battleground states.
All right, let's get out to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who's joining us now. General, great to have you here. One thing that we know is that when you actually enforce the law like Texas is doing with Operation Lone Star, you can cut down on illegal immigration. What do you want to hope, or what do you hope that Donald Trump can actually get across, given the challenges he'll face with the CNN moderators? What do you hope he can get across tonight when it comes to immigration?
Well, I think it's pretty easy. I think he talks about his record, what he accomplished while he was president, how the numbers massively decreased because he enforced federal law, the Remain in Mexico, Title 42, building the wall. And then he just points to Joe Biden day one saying he's not going to deport anybody and how he stopped enforcing federal law. And you just look at the numbers. The American people know what's going on. They know that the policies of Joe Biden have done just the opposite. They've encouraged illegal immigration. They've encouraged the crime associated with that, and they've encouraged the cartels to send drugs to our kids and kill many of our kids.
It is devastating. A 12-year-old laid to rest today. Houston girl Jocelyn Nungare. We'll see if Biden has the courage to say her name tonight. Final thought, you were with Donald Trump during that New York Bragg sham trial. You were in there with watching Judge Juan Merchan. He's still under a partial gag order tonight. How much should lawfare come into play? We know the moderators won't go there, but Donald Trump certainly can, Mr. Paxson.
Yeah, it's 100% lawfare. Think about it. We have 4 different prosecutions of Donald Trump. He's never been prosecuted in his life, and suddenly, right before the election, he's a criminal. And you look at the charges that are being levied against him; they're ludicrous. And the way they're doing the trial is ludicrous. I sat there and watched how this judge operated, It's incredible that they put a gag order on a presidential candidate. I think it's unconstitutional, but it is happening, and he's not allowed to speak about these issues. It's crazy.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, a pleasure to have you right here on our pre-show, minutes away from this historic night. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, now we're just about 5.5 minutes away. Let's check in with Trump donor and Chief Executive Officer, Chief Investment Officer for Key Square Group, Scott Bessent. Scott, great to have you with us.
Good. Bianca, John, thanks for having me.
Of course. It's been interesting to see, and I think not surprising to a lot of folks, to see all the Trump donors come together. One of the places where we've seen him show us that he can be presidential, certainly, and unify the party are at some of these donor events. And I would imagine after what we see tonight, those donations are only going to increase.
Yeah, and look, it was a record amount. The media hasn't reported it yet. Since the verdict on May 30th, up until June 15th, the campaign raised $400 million. $400 million. $100 million from Silicon Valley and $100 million from small donors and everything in between. So, as AG Paxton just said, the American people understand what's going on, and they understand what's at stake here.
Scott, some of the liberal folks in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, pretty impressed by Donald Trump. He went in to that All In podcast recently, talking about policy. They said if we had only listened to the media, we really had a different perception of him. And I think people who love this country, who are pro-capitalism, are seeing what Joe Biden has dismantled and done in a few short years. Do you think you will see more of the independents coming behind him? And, that's really where this election is. There's people who already support Trump, people who already support Biden. But tonight, the people watching in the middle, maybe who have seen their business decimated under Joe Biden policies, will be listening. What is your message to those potential voters?
Yeah, it's two very different visions for America. And what I would say is whoever wins on November 5th, 6th, 7th, when we have the results, will have a mandate. And, I believe it'll be Donald Trump. And we've seen what happened under Trump 1.0. Inflation was low. All income groups, low, middle, high, did great. The stock market did great. National security was fantastic. Or you can contrast that with what's happened under Joe Biden. Worst the inflation in 40 years. The bottom 50% is getting crushed. And, in Joe Biden's America, either you have assets or you have debt. And, we're running up these gigantic deficits that are unsustainable. We've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
This can't go on.
And we'll see him try to gaslight maybe on what the inflation rate is when he took over, like he did in mainstream media. But we'll be fact-checking that as well. Scott Bessent, the Chief Investment Officer for Key Square Group. Pleasure to have you, sir. Thank you for your thoughtful comments.
Good. Thanks.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Are the CNN debate moderators going to let Joe Biden say that inflation is lower than it was? Are they going to let him say things like, he's been talking about this decrease at the border? Are they going to let him? Are they going to fact check him to the point where they say yes, but it's still higher than when Donald Trump was in office?
I certainly hope so. Yeah. We know people will be watching them closely, and I think it comes back to sort of that: are you better off than where you were 4 years ago? And that's a question that most people will say no. Everything Joe Biden has done, John, has turned into a disaster. And you just mentioned, the border, the economy, but even the things with children and this push on trans. You do see now, Title IX. They're trying to stop some of the damage he's done. But I would think independent voters, even women, I'm not so sure this abortion issue is going to sway them like the Democrats maybe think it will.
Yeah, but if Joe Biden has one of those moments where he talks about his uncle being eaten by people in Papua New Guinea.
Oh, please, I want that to happen.
How are they going to fact check those things where he talks about traveling through the mountains with President Xi, which didn't happen, or he talks about that conductor on the Amtrak train? How will they fact check those lies we've heard so many times? We'll all be watching very closely. We're just about a minute away from the big event here. And again, it is a CNN simulcast, but we'll bring it to you here on N2.
Yeah, you don't have to change the channel. And also after the debate, the spin room will be very active. And we have a full post-show wrap for you here on N2. And that will really be the fascinating part on the other side of this, because Joe Biden now has 90 minutes to stand, to have to maybe talk about his policies, maybe try to, you know, bait Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, he barely has given press conferences, John. So this is going to be quite a feat for him.
We call that the shaky camera. That's when you know things are serious, when they start moving those cameras around. We have that live shot. But yeah, this is going to be very exciting. And it's hard to overstate how important tonight is for both candidates. Potentially more important for Joe Biden because he's got a lot more pressure on him. Mark Halpern was saying all those people locked him away for 8 days, and we'll see, starting right now.
This is the best he's going to be with all that rest. Donald Trump is also very ready, as are we. So we're going to kick it over now. The CNN Presidential Debate Simulcast right here on N2. A pleasure to have you this evening. Thank you for joining John and I right here on the pre-show.
We're going to kill a few seconds.
But here we go again. It's going to be watching how the CNN...
U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as their party's presumptive nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN Presidential Debate.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol. This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until Election Day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor of State of the Union.
I'm Jake Tapper, anchor of CNN's The Lead and co-anchor of State of the Union. Dana and I will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to facilitate a debate between the two candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss determined their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question and 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted, he will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is no studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes, props, or contact with campaign staff are not permitted during the debate. By accepting our invitation to debate, both candidates and their campaigns agreed to accept these rules.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
How are you? Great to be here. Thank you.
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president and what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems, that we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed, is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos. Literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for an insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce-back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world, he's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that we find ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant, and the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cause countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country, and I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a four-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24% or 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people, they cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, You take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was, an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also, and because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided, supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in. They talk about that, but here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which, frankly, they didn't. But they would have, everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
You're lying. That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period, period, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. Significantly, by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where, when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in caravans.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an al-Qaeda person coming in his administration, killed 3 American soldiers, killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world, and it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, or we have to get them out fast, because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved, choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half, because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
A 4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All All right, thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine, never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything, no money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I never said that.
For 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, and by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. see what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And I said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6 and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor in writing turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it, too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up to Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll not forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said They said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He didn't do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing, the Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots? Come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam. And it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people? And this is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN Presidential Debate.
Nice to meet you. My name is David. I've been a pharmacist for 44 years. When I have customers come in and ask for something for memory, I recommend Prevagen. Number one, because it's safe and effective, does not require a prescription. And I've been taking it quite a while myself, and I know it works. And I love it when the customers come back in and tell me, David, that really works so good for me. Makes my day.
Prevagen, at stores everywhere without a prescription. Do you owe over $10,000 in back taxes? Kevin Sorbo here with an important message. The Biden administration has proposed an $80 billion plan to boost IRS collections. This means they could garnish your wages, levy your bank account, and even seize your property. Tax Network USA, a trusted tax firm, can help protect your income and assets today while quickly settling your tax debt. But you have to act now while you still have options. Call Tax Network USA today.
I'm Dave Portnoy, and I'm asking for your help in supporting the Tunnel to Towers Foundation as it continues to pay off the mortgages for fallen first responder and Gold Star families who died in the line of duty and left behind young children. Not only that, but they also build mortgage-free smart homes for catastrophically injured veterans and have recently committed to eradicating homelessness amongst our veterans. Tunnel to Towers has been caring for America's greatest heroes for more than 2 decades, and we ask you to join us on our mission to do good.
Tommy John is for men who value themselves and their comfort, who want fabrics that are lightweight, breathable, and insanely soft, with stay-put waistbands that adapt for the perfect fit. 360-degree stretch prevents ride-up and supports any move you make, and mind-blowing innovations like our Quick Draw Fly. We've also reinvented loungewear. Yeah, loungewear. You can trust our thousands of 5-star reviews, because Tommy John knows how comfortable you want to be.
Go to TommyJohn.com for 20% off your first order.
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. God wants to heal you and make you whole. You only need to seek His guidance and let Him in. Psychologist, Navy veteran, and former member of Congress, Dr. Tim Murphy, presents The Christ Cure. Find inspiration, guidance, and techniques to start healing through faith. You need this valuable handbook. Get your free copy now. Call the number on your screen or go online to order.
In 2024, there's a lot more at stake than most voters realize.
According to Donald Trump, the U.S. dollar losing its reserve currency status is our greatest defeat in 200 years. Social welfare programs, reckless spending, and our national debt is the cause of persistent inflation.
Biden's only contribution has been increased government spending and regulation, and none of that is economically successful. Trump is returning to make America great again, but will Biden have pushed us beyond the point of no return?
Call the proud Americans of the Patriot Gold Group before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group has the No Fee for Life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver. Call 888-612-5447. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer 7 years in a row. Call 888-612-5447.
Welcome back to the CNN Presidential Debate live from Georgia. Let's talk about persistent challenges you both faced in your first terms and you'd certainly face again in a second term. President Biden, while black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, black families still earned far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're providing housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family first-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that, and we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who were in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, the ACA has increased. I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing anything. We put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump, almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs. And it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges, I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just don't have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He must undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion. And China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones who was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage, I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Where this guy comes from. The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We're not able to, the United States can't get its pollution under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people to learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay. Thank you. And by the way,
so every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
Yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time of the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I've been proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanted to cut Social Security and Medicare both times, and that's what. And if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that I believe supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is we're in a situation where we talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He could look you in the face. About so many other things, too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession. And inflation is going to increase and go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We are the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody, number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history, one through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work, and we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you, and they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming into the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food, and all the things that were important. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. The middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
You lost.
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border were, it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot, and we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low, because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically. No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, because this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say there's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter. I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 50 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought off a lot of people. The whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States, and guess what? Those fabs, they call them, to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, who he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way, and I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what you're. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf with you if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie, that he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I have, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to turn
Let's not act like children.
to a specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment, because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here, but the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation, and we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, and required response. The idea The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were president.
President Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these. But the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Well, let's see what your numbers are when this election is over.
Let's see.
Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN Presidential Debate, live from Georgia.
Parents, show your kids how President Trump can win back the White House with the free Kids Guide to President Trump and the Kids Guide to the Presidential Election, plus free benefits in the 1776 Kids Club, too. Order now at freetrumpguide.com. That's freetrumpguide.com.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During any disaster, electrical power may get cut. The emergency radio gives you the vital information you need. Newsmax wants you to have the Dynamo Emergency Band Radio. It doesn't need batteries and works in any emergencies. It retails for $30. You can get it with the free offer. Call or go online and get the emergency radio today. Your life may depend on it.
Welcome to Henry Repeating Arms, where we manufacture high-quality rifles, shotguns, and revolvers in a variety of calibers and finishes. Whether you're a hunter, collector, or need something practical for home and property protection, there's a Henry that's right for you. Every Henry is backed by a lifetime warranty and is proudly made in America or not made at all. Visit us at henryusa.com to order our free catalog and decals. That's henryusa.com.
Hi, I'm Sally. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a flight nurse on a helicopter that specializes in trauma. I've been doing flight nursing for 24 years. I had a fear that I wouldn't be able to keep up. I wanted all the boost I could get. I heard about Prevagen from a friend. I read the clinical study on it, and it had good reviews. I've been taking Prevagen now for 5 years, and it's really helped me stay sharp and present. It's really worked for me.
Prevagen, at stores everywhere without a prescription.
Do you ever have a rundown feeling, lack of energy, or just not up to par? Now, this could be caused by lack of minerals because you have probably never consumed more than 15 minerals in your life due to a lack of minerals in foods because of a lack of minerals in topsoil. Your body needs 60 minerals. I'm Elmer Heinrich, asking you to preserve your body with Immuno 150, an exciting nutritional product that contains 70 minerals and 80 additional nutrients. There's nothing like it. Immuno 150 has propelled me to 90 years of age with no prostate or heart problems, dementia, diabetes, or high blood pressure. Nothing, and I mean nothing. I still have mental clarity and focus. I still have all my hair. I don't wear glasses. I don't have false teeth or wear hearing aids. Now, Immuno 150 can do the same thing for you. So preserve your body with 70 minerals like me and my wife have. You can order Immuno 150 online or call 888-316-2224. That's 888-316-2224.
It's time to get this done. Let's pass PBM reform now.
The longer Congress waits, the more families hurt. The hope is really in these white jackets.
Help us deliver the message that this must happen now.
Here's my message. Patients and pharmacists simply cannot wait any longer.
Parents, show your kids how President Trump can win back the White House with the free Kids Guide to President Trump and the Kids Guide to the Presidential Election, plus free benefits in the 1776 Kids Club, too. Order now at freetrumpguide.com. That's freetrumpguide.com.
It is now time for the candidates to deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We found ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit, number one. He's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along. It's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credit people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel, it was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump. President Biden, stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
Back to our post-debate analysis. The first presidential debate is in the books, and what a night it's been. Hi, everybody. I'm Bianca Garza.
And I'm John Bachman. So much to unpack here. We'll get into everything with our special guests and reporters coming up here. The spin room is packed right now, and we can expect at least one of the candidates to stop by our camera there, so we'll have that interview, hopefully, or at least have one of the, I guess that's news to me, Bianca, that one of the candidates is going to be in the spin room. I imagine it's going to be Donald Trump.
I imagine he had a pretty good night and a pretty good showing. Stay with us. We are on through midnight, so sit back and enjoy. We want to bring in our very first guest now to react to what we just watched for 90 minutes. She is the U.S. Senate candidate for the state of Arizona. Kari Lake joins us right here on N2. Kari, great to have you with us. Wow. Your first reaction to what we all just watched, Joe Biden's performance clearly out of the gate, shaky voice, a lot to get into, but your takeaways tonight on how you think he performed.
Well, Joe Biden, it was a disaster. It wasn't a debate. It was a debacle for Joe Biden. President Trump, on the other hand, gave a dominant performance. That with all the polls stacked against him with this little outlet, CNN, everything was stacked against him. He came in and reminded Americans he gave us the strongest economy of our life, the biggest tax cuts. He gave us a secure border. Meantime, Joe Biden, when he wasn't mumbling and losing his train of thought and nearly wandering off, he admitted that he's let rapists and murderers into our country. I think Joe Biden did a disastrous performance tonight. As a mother, I am more concerned than ever about the next 4.5 months. Look, I wish the election were tonight, because after seeing Joe Biden in that state, I worry how this country is going to get through the next 4.5 months if he is in charge of the country.
I think anyone who's watching this with an open mind can look and wonder how this result that we saw from Joe Biden tonight is the result of 8 days of solid preparation. Really makes you wonder what they were doing behind closed doors for all that time. I think that's fair to say. Are we going to stay?
That's 8 days. That's 8 days of preparation. That looked like he was in a comatose state for 8 days, because he came out not ready for prime time. He didn't have answers. And if Democrats and independents are not as worried tonight as I know a lot of Republicans are, they need to rewatch that, because this man should not be in charge of our country. He's running us into He's opened the border wide up, and he's not ready to take care of this country and since the next month. We are in treacherous waters right now because of Joe Biden, and I'm not sure that he thinks, I know, as a matter of fact, he can't get us out of this.
We saw Alejandro Mayorkas in Tucson, Arizona yesterday, gaslighting the American people. Immigration, obviously, a huge topic tonight as well. Let's play a little bit of an exchange between Donald Trump and Joe Biden tonight on immigration and our wide open disaster at the southern border. All right, we're trying to recall that. But obviously, the deaths of young women and children. Today, a 12-year-old laid to rest. Donald Trump talked about talking to those families. We do have this now. Let's just play this exchange in case our viewers are just tuning into us now for the post-debate coverage.
I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
I mean, he can barely answer, but when he is speaking, it's a flat-out lie. This is incredible to watch this, Carrie.
Well, and the Border Patrol, during this debate, actually tweeted out, "We have never endorsed you, nor will we ever endorse Joe Biden. So stop lying," basically. That's, in effect, what the tweet said. I was just in southern Arizona earlier today and yesterday, and even in areas that are typically liberal, like Tucson, we're drawing massive crowds because the people there can't handle what's happening due to the border. The fentanyl crisis has left a trail of despair. Homeless people line the streets in Tucson. Businesses are boarded up because they can't afford to do business, nor do they want to do business when the streets are lined with homeless people. That is all because of a wide open border and a fentanyl crisis that Joe Biden ushered in on day one. We did not have these troubles. I live in Arizona. We did not have these troubles when President Trump was in the White House. And Joe Biden has torn that border wide open and allowed the cartels to take control. I thought that Joe Biden showed his true colors tonight. He's a man who shouldn't be in the White House. He's a man who has no idea where he is, and he has no idea what he's doing. I'm asking Americans to look at tonight's debate and help re-elect President Trump on November 5th. It is the only way our country can survive. And frankly, it'll help save the world. Right now, we're in a mess, and it's all due to Joe Biden's destructive policies. And frankly, the guy running against Ruben Gallego, who's with Joe Biden 100% of the time, the two of them are driving America off a cliff. And we need President Trump back to snap.
All right, Carrie Lake, great to be with you tonight. Thanks for some time. Carrie Lake's obviously at a watch party there, and we can hear some of the speaker in the background. We were able to get.
You should have heard the people cheering. You should have heard the people cheering tonight when President Trump laid out his plan.
We know too. There was from James Rosen's reporting when Joe Biden really stumbled there. There was audible gasps from the press covering it. So we'll get some more reaction from that. We'll let you get back to the party there. Great to be with you tonight, Carrie Lake. Thanks.
Thanks, Carrie.
Yeah, and if things continue, it's obviously a big deal too for her race going on right now. The better Donald Trump does, the better she'll do in her race as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you watch Joe Biden, literally the first words out of his mouth were questions, the Twitter was blowing up about his voice, concerns about that. You can't be resting for this long and have that type of, opening.
He just didn't sound strong. And there was that one point, too, when they were going back and forth about the Very Fine People hoax. And Donald Trump was literally saying just a few days ago, Snopes came out 7 years after the fact and confirmed that was fake news, a false story. And Joe Biden looked genuinely lost and confused in that moment.
Yeah, he didn't look good. And on the flip side, I think Donald Trump really maintained his composure and really held strong. Even when they were trying to sort of agitate him, it was clear.
Let's bring in Joe Pinion now, former GOP. I'm having Joe Biden voice problems. Former GOP Senate candidate, also with us. Bruce
I wasn't
Lavelle.
going to say it, but thank you. Here,
Bruce
my
Lavelle,
friend.
I got my water bottle here.
Okay, get your Stanley here.
I was reacting a lot to what we were watching, but Joe. And that's the thing, too. There were so many moments, and I think particularly telling tonight was when the candidates weren't speaking. Because, you had Joe Biden spewing a lot of these lies that have been debunked. And Donald Trump could have made a funny face, but he just sat there kind of stoically taking it, and then he waited for his moments, and he got his counterpunches.
At one point, he even said, can I respond? They said, yes, you can use your time however you want, which I thought, really it was better than I thought, I think, for the moderating. And I think Donald Trump was really clearly able to articulate, as you said, some of the mischaracterizations that Biden was putting out there. Joe, we'll start with you. Also joining us is Bruce Lavelle, who is in Georgia. But Joe, to you first, your takeaways on what we just watched for 90 minutes here, Biden and Trump, first presidential debate in the books.
Well, look, it is embarrassing. It was terrifying to see the current president of these United States grasping at words, at sometimes feeling as if he was incoherent. I just want to go through a few of the key notes that it was clear that I don't know if there was coordination or maybe they just have the same mindset. You had the MSNBC and CNN almost simultaneously talking about climate change and not even accepting President Trump's answer. The reality is that, as we've seen, the United States of America has reduced climate emissions more than the next 8 countries combined. And it's because of natural gas. It's because of the fact that we've had a commitment to doing things that Joe Biden has said we can't do. They are the ones who have banned liquid natural gas exports, the new ones. It's New York State that's trying to ban new natural gas hookups. They wanted to talk about Ukraine. Does President Trump accept the premise that the terms provided for Russian Vladimir Putin are false? Let's be very clear. It is Joe Biden who was supposed to be the adult in the room when a president with zero foreign policy experience, one Barack Hussein Obama, was the one that watched Crimea actually be taken by Vladimir Putin. He did nothing. He said nothing. And this war began on his watch because we have seen Russia attack the U.S. homeland time and time again. 75% of the Russian ransom attacks against the U.S. homeland have gone pretty much unanswered. So, again, those are very specific issues, but if we're just talking about the tone is clear. One man is prepared to move America forward. The other man was quite clearly unaware of exactly where he was most of the time.
Bruce, what stood out to you the most tonight from this debate?
Well, he didn't really have a leg to stand on, Joe. It does not have a successful record. Normally when presidents are running for re-election, and thanks for having me, because I'm here in Atlanta. I missed being in that spin room because I've never missed one, but CNN had rules of only 10 on each side and all these other rules they had. But one thing that he did not have a clear, successful record to talk about. So he had to go back and kick the old dead horse, as I call it, on the Charlottesville and the J6 stuff. And he was really reaching and trying to come back and dig up some old bones, which you said earlier in the segment about it being fact check. Listen, I remember Charlottesville very heavily because I actually spent a lot of time on CNN. As a matter of fact, I was the first to go on and debunking that. And Jake Tapper happened to be the host who I was the guest on. And we were going round and round on good people on both sides. But anyway, where I'm going, that he was trying to go back and dig up some old bones because he has nothing to run on is what I got on. And so he's reaching. And just to see his declining health is just, it was really sad. And listen, real quick, as you saw, Gavin Newsom made his appearance. The Democrats have the super delegate process. And we've never done this ever in the history to have a debate like this before, the DNC and RNC. So they're like circling the wagon. Just like on CNN, the opening statement from one of the CNN guests was saying that the Democrats are panicking right there when Anderson Cooper, right when he went on. That's the first thing he said in this opening statement.
All right, Bruce Lavelle, Joe Pinion, great to see you both, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
All right, let's bring in now Rick Leventhal, host right here on N2 of the Leventhal Report every night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Rick, great to have you. We were watching as you were. One of the things that struck me is when Donald Trump said, we're trying to justify his presidency. We shouldn't even be having a debate. I thought that was a really good line from 45 among some of the other moments. Your take on some of the highlights tonight here from Atlanta.
Well,
I appreciate what he said at the end, which is basically, I wouldn't be here if you weren't such a terrible president.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great point. Trump, a lot of people have said, why isn't Trump relaxing? He's at an age where he can play golf every day and he doesn't have to work that hard. But he made it clear that he's only there because he thinks Biden's doing a terrible job. And I also thought Trump looked presidential. He didn't do a lot. He didn't make a lot of faces. He made some because he felt like what Biden was saying was nonsense. But he was very clear. And what I also respected and appreciated was that he was using his time wisely. If he couldn't finish a thought in a previous question, when he was asked the next question, he said, well, I want to finish, and he went back a lot. And I thought that was smart. He also attacked Biden a lot on the border, which was also smart, because I think there was one question, maybe two, about the border crisis. And Trump kept bringing it up. And I never heard Joe Biden one time say anything sympathetic toward the victims or their families of people who were raped and murdered by illegal migrants. He never said a word about it. He just kept attacking Trump and calling him a liar. So, I don't know, I was impressed. A lot of what Biden said, I had a hard time following, quite honestly, because he does mumble and stumble and stutter a lot. And when they asked Biden about his age, all he could do was say, well, I was the youngest and now I'm the oldest, and I got all these people to invest in America. And he never really said anything about his cognitive abilities or about how sharp he thinks he is.
Yeah, and I do think the CNN moderators did a decent job tonight of getting those questions in. The first question they asked was on the economy, which is the biggest issue to voters out there. And I think, Rick, you're absolutely right. One of the things that Donald Trump was very effective about, that when they would ask him a question and he didn't feel like he got the proper follow-up in on something that Joe Biden said, he would stay with that topic before he would answer the question. He was very measured in his responses, and it was effective. And something I think that Donald Trump did tonight that Joe Biden wasn't able to do is speak to the American public, not just start rattling off facts. And this is something that I talked about all week. I don't understand how anyone could have 16 people in their ear prepping them for a debate like this and not come off sounding like Joe Biden did tonight. He already has a problem with this stuff. But then, to try and rattle off these facts and with the stutter and with the obvious senility that's involved here, it just came off, I think, as bad as you would expect it to.
I want to echo what you said. I also thought the moderators did a good job. I thought they did a far better job than people were worried they would do.
Right.
I mean, they didn't seem all that partisan. They did seem to treat this fairly, evenly. They let them both talk. But you're right. I mean, Biden seemed wooden to me. He seemed unemotional. He was very just...
Maybe he was too relaxed. Maybe all that time at Camp David. He was in a...
There was no personality. And, when Trump speaks, you listen. Because he's an energetic guy. And if you compare the two of them physically and apparently mentally, I mean, it does seem to be a sharp contrast between the two. And again, Trump was very good about hitting his key points, and one of them was the Afghanistan withdrawal being a disaster, and that America is an embarrassment in the rest of the world. And these are things that
to hear
Trump.
To hear Joe Biden say that no one died on his watch, no soldiers died on his watch.
It was incredible.
You can just think of that picture of him literally looking at his watch during the dignified transfer of reins. All right, Rick, we got to wrap it up there. We're going to get out to the spin room right now, where correspondent Mike Carter is there in the spin room. There's the big picture of the spin room. Where's Mike Carter? He'll be with us here. There he is. Mike Carter is for us in the spin room. Hey, Mike.
Hey, guys. Hey, guys. Well, as you can imagine, that was a debate that was tough to watch for a lot of Democrats. We're just looking online right now. You have Andrew Yang. Of course, he ran for president one time, tweeting out, guys, the Dems should nominate someone else before it's too late. Swap Joe out. We're also hearing from folks like Frank Luntz, the pollster, after the first commercial break, says Luntz, I asked my focus group of undecided voters, how many of them are more convinced to vote for Joe Biden? 0 raised their hands. Half of them now would say they would not have voted for Joe Biden in 2020. I'm here with Danielle Alvarez, senior advisor to the Trump campaign. Danielle, there was a moment, and I want to play this. You won't be able to hear it, but our viewers will. About 10 minutes into the debate, where Joe Biden had that moment where he lost track of his words. He froze. Let's take a look.
Eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat eligible for what I've been able to do with.
All right, guys, and we're going to we asked Danielle to step aside. We have Raphael Warnock, senator from Georgia, also the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. They're about to give a press conference. Let's listen in.
Yeah, let's hear what they say.
Proud to be joined here today with members that fully represent the rich diversity of the Biden-Harris coalition. Look, tonight, I think what you saw, again, what we knew what we were going to see coming into the night, which is a very clear contrast, a very clear choice in this election. What you saw out of Donald Trump tonight was a man who took the stage and lied the entire night, grew increasingly unhinged throughout the night, and reminded the American people by the end of the debate exactly why they fired him in the first place 4 years ago. In contrast to that, you saw President Biden take the stage and did exactly what he did over the course of the last 4 years, fight relentlessly on behalf of the American people. He fought through a cold, and he made the case for his historic record of accomplishment, everything from 15 million jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, the work that he has done since the day he took office to lower costs for Americans, capping the cost of insulin at $35, the work that he's done to cap prescription drug costs out of pocket for our seniors at $2,000 annually, the work that he's going to continue to do in his second term. In Donald Trump, you saw somebody who repeatedly refused to say that he would accept the results of the election once again, the same way that he did so in 2020. We saw the way that that played out most violently on January 6th. He is all but promising to do that again if he loses this election again. He's already spent his months out on the stump saying that there's going to be
All right, guys, as we try to get a camera position, we're waiting to hear from Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia, Gavin Newsom. We'll listen back in.
Returning a Roe v. Wade was a great thing. Once again, as he is out on the stump every day talking about the fact that these extreme state-level abortion bans are playing out brilliantly. That is the fundamental contrast that the American people saw as this debate played out over the course of the night. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett.
Hello, everyone. So I represent Texas, and we know that abortion is on the ballot. And to be clear, tonight we saw two things. People can choose between a con-in-chief or a commander-in-chief. And so what we saw was someone who sat up there and was acting as if he was some used car salesman that wanted to just tell us whatever and pretend as if it was fact. The reality is that our president submitted to you what looks like substance. The substance of the issue is simple. We have somebody that is bragging about the fact that he took Roe v. Wade away from us, whereas we know the next step. They've gone after mifepristone. They want to go after contraception. And unfortunately, in the state of Texas, they're talking about instituting the death penalty. What the American people have to decide is that they're going to choose themselves. This election isn't about all of the lies that Trump is selling you. What it's about is the facts. The facts are that he took that right away from us, and he wants to take more rights away from us, and he did not shy away from it. Every time he didn't want to answer a question, he just decided to deflect. The reality is that people are dying. We had over 26,000 women that were impregnated in the state of Texas alone in the last year since the Dobbs decision as a result of rape. That is unacceptable. You all know the story of Kate Cox. You know the story of Dr. Denard. You know the story of women that are potentially losing their lives. And so there is only one clear choice, and that clear choice is Joe Biden and the blue team. And that's exactly why we're here.
All right, Senator, we are now going to Senator Warnock.
Listen,
You address the president's performance.
Hold on, we're gonna go through the run show, and we'll have
elections are about the character of a nation. They are about jobs, they're about the economy, they're about war and peace, about a whole range of issues. But at the end of the day, it's really about the character of a country. And the American people got a chance tonight to be reminded about the character of Donald Trump, a man who stood there and lied for 90 minutes straight. But what I was also struck by was by what he did not say. Every time he was asked a question that had something to do with the lives of the ordinary working class people that I represent here in the state of Georgia, did you notice he never answered the question? when he was asked about child care.
All right, so Senator Raphael Warnock, we are in the spin room, and the spin has definitely begun. Democrats trying to save face over what many folks online and across the country now are seeing as a disaster for President Biden coming off this debate. We'll be hanging in here tonight. Hope to hear from the governor of California, who many say could replace Joe Biden, potentially on the ticket, now about a little over 2 months away from the Democratic National Convention. Guys?
For us, and we sat there and listened to Jasmine Crockett, the congresswoman from Texas, and Raphael Warnock, the senator there from Georgia. You know, say a lot of the same thing. They did not talk about Joe Biden's debate performance. They didn't really talk about Donald Trump's debate performance other than to say that he lied the entire time, Bianca. What they did was they went after Donald Trump's character. And that tells you that they don't have any wins from the debate tonight to actually talk about. They're not talking about substantive moments. And even if you look at the things that the Biden-Harris rapid response team was posting on X tonight, you know, they posted that line about Donald Trump being a sucker and a loser when Joe Biden said that. He called Donald Trump a sucker and a loser to his face, a totally fake story. And, you know, when we hear these folks talking about character, that really questions Joe Biden's character.
And already, folks, we should tell you the headlines coming out of this. Politico, Biden bombs, Trump's pounces. There's concerns.
Oh, really?
About
They went with pounce?
Pounces. Well, we just heard them call it unhinged. But there are serious concerns from the Democrats about replacing Joe Biden. Already 2 Democratic officials. Let's listen to now Biden and Joe.
We got a pep rally here going. Let's see how they spin it. This is obviously a coordinated effort from the...
Yes. So, Joe, I'm going to hand it over to you because we have such a great group of supporters here. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate it. You've been here the whole time. I see it. I see that patch there. Look, folks, you know, I shouldn't say this, but my brother always uses lines from movies. There was a famous movie about John Wayne, and he's working for the Northern military, trying to get the Apaches back in the reservation. And they were lying like hell to him. And they're all sitting on a bluff. And John Wayne was sitting with 2 Apaches. And one of them looked at John Wayne and said, "These guys are nothing but lying, dog-faced pony soldiers." Except he's just a liar. Look, folks, what's going to happen over the next couple of days is they're going to be out there fact-checking all the things he said. I can't think of one thing he said that was true. No, I'm not being facetious. But look, we're going to beat this guy. We need to beat this guy. And I need you in order to beat him. You're the people I'm running for. Here. He says he's going to be the retribution for his supporters. You are the reason why America's as good as we are. We're the finest nation in the whole damn world. And nobody's close. Well, let's keep going. See you at the next one. God love you all. Heading to North Carolina. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to go home with you. Thank you.
This ain't Texas. You know, hold 'em.
All right, so looks like you might need a little help getting off the stage, but gosh, you know, it is, I think, enlightening for our audience to see what we just saw right there in the spin room, and then that little demonstration, whatever that was. The reality of the situation.
A very loving wife.
Yes, a very supportive wife. But the reality of the situation right now, no matter how the Democrats want to spin it, the front page of the New York Times right now reads, Biden struggles as Trump blusters. And you pulled up Politico earlier, and it said, Biden, what did it say? Biden bombs.
Trump pounces.
So.
There's some real panic by Democrats after this performance. I mean, after being out of the public spotlight for so long, to come out and speak the way he's speaking tonight. Reaction, Biden is toast. operation
good.
replace Biden. Not good at all.
All right, let's welcome in now Congressman Rich McCormick from Georgia. Congressman, great to have you here.
It's great to be with you today. I mean, thank God it was in the capital of the South. I'm glad to see that Georgians get to weigh in a little bit. I wish we would have had a live audience. What a fiasco for the Bidens.
Yeah, I want to get you to respond to specifically what Senator Raphael Warnock was saying there. And it seems like the one line, we heard it from Joe Biden, we heard it from Joe Biden, we heard it from Warnock, we heard it from some of the other, Jasmine Crockett as well, another one of your colleagues there in the House. And all they can say is that Donald Trump lied for 90 minutes. We know that's not true. So they're lying about Donald Trump lying.
Yeah. And to listen to what Biden said, I couldn't even figure out what he's saying half the time. I couldn't keep up.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was a moment.
I was focused as I could be. And he was disjointed. He was jumbling numbers, jumbling even what he was trying to talk about. He was lost half the time. It was an obvious decline from the first debate that they had 4 years ago. He clearly lost that. I know they got to be in panic mode right now. It's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, one of the issues that Donald Trump, I think, was very successful in hitting on tonight was the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. We have a clip here, one of those exchanges. Let's take a look.
As far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
You know, it was another one of those situations. Again, there were so many times when Donald Trump would say something like that, and the look on Joe Biden's face said everything. He looked confused and lost, like he didn't actually remember what happened with Afghanistan.
Yeah, I don't think he did. As a matter of fact, I don't think he realized how much of a debacle it was for people who served over there. It was insulting. I can't think of a word. I used to teach evolutionary warfare. I was served over in Afghanistan. I looked at what Trump was planning on doing, how he came across. He said to the Taliban, hey, look, if you do this, this is going to happen. There are consequences to everything. And to see how badly they screwed that withdrawal up, how badly, whether you wanted to be in Afghanistan or not, you couldn't have done a worse job in withdrawal. And Biden can't remember. He couldn't defend himself. He didn't know what they were even talking about. Couldn't remember 6 months ago if he wanted to.
Yeah.
So we know there's people right now, as you look live in Atlanta, that are crowding around Joe Biden. They were going to support him no matter what, even if he comes out tonight and fell on his face and say it was something, you know, about the lights were too bright, or they'd cop for him. And Trump will have his supporters. The independents, the battleground states, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, people who are watching tonight, Congressman McCormick, have clearly, the independents who maybe swayed one way or the other. I don't know how Joe Biden comes back from this, because some are saying he shouldn't even be, having the nuclear codes right now if this is how he's acting. That's the type of people that we're watching tonight who have to make a decision. Do you think it was a fatal night for Joe Biden's campaign for his reelection for those voters?
I really do. I was a little concerned last time we had the first debate. I was a little concerned. This one, if I was a Democrat, full on panic mode. They can't feel good about this. The obvious between Joe Biden 4 years ago and now, it was so bad. It was so obvious. You can see, I mean, we've been watching him kind of Roomba his way around the stage trying to get off for last year. We've seen him fall downstairs and fall off his bike, but just watch him actually have a hard time completing a sentence. Oh my gosh, the president of the most powerful nation in the world, people have got to be concerned and actually just disappointed. I mean, nobody's going to want to see that. Yeah. Nobody's going to think that that's a good thing for the for the Democratic Party. They've got to be in panic mode for sure.
Yeah, when I see what's going on right now on the screen, this is what I think they were doing for the last 8 days, making sure there was this visual set up in place for no matter how bad Joe Biden performed. They had a situation that they could show the country that Joe Biden still has his supporters. This is what they want us to focus on right now, not on what we saw during the debate. Congressman Rich McCormick, great to spend some time with you, sir. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for your insight.
Always a pleasure.
All right.
And hey, I guarantee there'll be no second debate. No way. Not this one.
I tweeted the same thing. And
Or
again,
if there is, it'll be a different candidate.
We've got the New York Times, Bianca, saying Biden struggles. The Washington Post saying Biden struggles. You have Politico saying Biden bombs. It's pretty much universal tonight. Nothing good for Joe Biden.
Well, it takes the heat off the CNN moderators. They're not the headline. So there you go. Thank you, Congressman McCormick. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Mike Carter is in the spin room. I believe he has Elise Stefanik with him right now. So let's get right out to Mike.
I guess I'm Mike Carter.
We do, guys. Here with New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. Congresswoman, look, unmitigated disaster is what we've been hearing tonight. A lot of Democrats saying, look, it's time to pull the plug on Joe Biden. What was your opinion on how this debate just optically looked tonight for the president and the former president?
It was an unmitigated disaster for Joe Biden. It was a historic victory and debate win for President Donald J. Trump. This debate will go down in history as the biggest knockout punch in presidential debate politics. Certainly in my lifetime, President Trump brought strength compared to Joe Biden's weakness. In the first 20 minutes, Joe Biden couldn't even get through an answer, and he froze up. He's unfit to be president of the United States. That was on display for all to see. President Trump talked about securing the border. He talked about returning to peace through strength, strong national security positions. He talked about unleashing economic growth, U.S. manufacturing, crushing Biden inflation, and that's in stark contrast to Joe Biden's catastrophic withdrawal from Afghanistan, the border crisis that Joe Biden created, and his terrible economic policies that have led to just historic challenges for families, small businesses, farms, and manufacturers. So it's an overwhelming win for President Trump.
We have several Democrats on the spin room floor here tonight, including the Georgia Senator, Raphael Warnock, also the Governor of California, Gavin Newsom, who a lot of people say should replace Joe Biden on this ticket. Are we going to hear more of those rumors after tonight?
Well, Democrats are in full panic mode, but Joe Biden is on the ballot. Joe Biden is the Democratic nominee, and Joe Biden is who Donald Trump is going to defeat. And Gavin Newsom and Raphael Warnock, they were the sacrificial lambs. They waited 20 minutes before coming to the spin room because it was such an abysmal performance from Joe Biden. And everybody knows it. All the Democrats know it. The American people, most importantly, know it. And we will continue to work our very hardest as a surrogate of President Trump to make sure that he has all the support he needs to win this November and then save this country to bring back the successful policies that he delivered in his first term.
There was a great moment by President Trump tonight where he was asked about January 6th. Look, this was something that we expected to come. We expected President Biden to bring it up, the moderators to bring it up. President Trump took a different angle. He said on January 6th, the border was under control. On January 6th, our economy was booming. What did you think of that moment in regards to how the president weaved his way through that moment?
It was an excellent answer to the question. Joe Biden's campaign has no message because his policies have failed. They've failed the American people, and I thought it was very smart of President Trump to talk about the success of his policies during the Trump years when he was in office. So I think that was very clear to the American people. Democrats, like Joe Biden, are getting more and more desperate because each of their attacks, they're losing. On the question of abortion, President Trump did an excellent job answering that question, exposing that it's the Democrats who are the radicals on that issue, the Democrats who are hurting babies, women, and families across this country. So it was an overwhelming win by President Trump.
Finally, Congresswoman, Donald Trump said his VP pick is here tonight. Are you that VP pick? Have you been vetted?
You know, I don't get into the specifics of the process. I'm honored to have my name in the mix, and I'm working very hard as House Republican Conference Chair, and most importantly, as representative for New York's 21st Congressional District, my constituents. I'm proud to be the first member of Congress to endorse his reelection, and I'm proud to be here today as a surrogate, and I'm going to work my very hardest to make sure that he gets elected so that we can save this country on behalf of the American people.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Nice seeing you tonight.
Thank you very much.
Guys, we'll send it back to you. We'll have a lot of folks to talk to tonight. Larry Trump walking around, a lot of Republicans, Vivek Ramaswamy. Try to talk to a few of them. As you just heard from Elise Stefanik, she says right now she's not going to get into the VP talk. Someone here, though.
That was a great answer. Great answer from Elise Stefanik, and she's not in the running for VP because, she doesn't answer good questions like that. I mean, that's why she's in the running, because she can give you an answer to a question just like that one, Mike.
Artfully dodged. All right, we'll let you go get some more surrogates for us, Mike. Thank you. He is doing a great job.
Yes. All right. We'll be right back. Quick break here, but plenty more to come. Our special coverage on N2 of the post-Republican, or I should say, presidential debate.
Yes. Not so great for Joe Biden.
Yes. It was a Republican's night.
Is your faith being weaponized? There's a dark force manipulating the Word of God. They're known by different names: Christian left, progressives, and woke Christianity. Don't be fooled. These fake Christians want to convert you. Woke Jesus has been written to expose this very real threat. You'll need this book to stop them before it's too late. Get your free copy today with our special offer. Call Call now or go online to order.
This right here is confidence in a bottle. It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home, so we applied it to his under eye bags, and let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view, and now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work after your first application. Call the number on your screen.
Call 800-316-6394.
Some breaking news. Famed political strategist Dick Morris says Donald Trump is running for president. Few people know President Trump better than Dick Morris. For years, Morris has served as his top advisor. Now, in his new bestseller, The Return, Dick reveals Trump's secret plan for 2024, his real reason for running, and his coming surprise announcement. Dick says Trump still faces 3 threats, but Biden can never be reelected. Newsmax calls The Return the only political book you need to read. It's already an Amazon #1 bestseller. If you want to see Trump's plan, Dick Morris shares it. Big media, big tech, and the deep state all want to stop Trump. But The Return shows they'll fail, and Trump will triumph. Get Dick Morris's The Return in bookstores everywhere, or see the free offer from Newsmax. Go online or call today.
All right, we are so glad you are with us on this Thursday evening. It's just after 11:15 at night, and joining us now, pollster with McLaughlin and Associates, John McLaughlin, an advisor to President Trump, Dick Morris. All right, gentlemen, glad you guys could be with us. I think eventually everyone's going to start having this conversation, because when you have the Washington Post, when you have the New York Times, when you have Politico, when you have the Young Turks tonight saying that they're unable to watch Joe Biden any longer, Dick, the conversation tomorrow morning, I imagine, is going to turn to who's going to replace Joe Biden.
Right.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that Biden may want to stay running, but there is the 25th Amendment to force him to go. And I think there might be consensus in Congress to do that. I think that the Democrats are facing the most unbelievable wipeout of all time. And their focus now can't be on the presidential race. It has to be on preserving some kind of vote in the Senate and the House. And it's such a disastrous performance. I personally believe they have to get rid of Biden. And I don't think Michelle Obama would be the best candidate. Will do it, because nobody likes to step in front of a train wreck. And it might be Newsom, it might be somebody further down the bench. But it has to be somebody. I think looking at a Eagleton situation in 1972, when the Democrats nominated George McGovern for president and Senator Thomas Eagleton of Minnesota as the vice president, and Eagleton was forced off the ticket because he admitted that he had had electroshock therapy. I think that the Democrats have got to get out from under this, and I think they will.
It was
the idea that Biden hold on is ridiculous.
It was so bad, and Trump was so good. He was so reserved. They still want to say he's lying, he's unhinged. He was none of that. So as they gaslight, it makes them look even worse, because it is such a distorted reality. It is an alternate universe they had been living in, John. They weren't looking at the polls. They weren't, watching the people who were reacting in the Bronx and all these places to Donald Trump. Do you think they actually thought Joe Biden would be able to pull this off? I mean, are they that drunk with power, blind with corruption?
Well, I think the Biden family is. I mean, Joe Biden, he did pull off the last election. Remember, they censored the laptop, Hunter Biden's laptop. You had 51 national security leaders, including leaders of the CIA and FBI, saying it was Russian disinformation. They got away with it. And they've been getting away with it for 3 years. But Donald Trump's unbelievable, because when you look at it, I mean, Dick and I met Donald Trump in 2011 because Dick introduced us to him, and he wanted to run for president against Barack Obama, and then he put it off. But he's unbelievable in that he cares about this country. And he said it today in the debate. He really didn't think he wanted to do it again, but he had to do it because, you know, we met in 2021 in February during impeachment. I said 2/3 of the Republicans want you to run again. And when he fails, it's going to be like Jimmy Carter, where there'll be buyer's remorse. You were a good president. They know it. They'll want you back. And Biden has failed gloriously, where the poll we put out today on Newsmax, 40, Biden voters he was being turned off, but Trump was ahead by 2 points. He'll go up. We were beating Kamala Harris 47-42. And the scenario Dick was talking about, the 25th Amendment, the cabinet has to vote on that. That's according to the Constitution, not Congress, but the cabinet. And Kamala Harris would end up being president. So the Democrats have quite a conundrum to where all their delegates are committed to Joe Biden unless he withdraws and calls an open convention. And then you could get some, like Dick's old friend Hillary Clinton might run. Who knows? I mean, but who
What do
wants
you
to
do with
step into
Kamala?
Well,
I think that you.
Yeah, go ahead, Dick.
I think that they'll. Some people will talk about Kamala, but I think that the call here will be for both Biden and Kamala to step aside, and I think the Democrats will enforce their will. And I think, particularly in terms of Biden, they can use the 25th Amendment to force him. With Kamala, you don't need to go that far. You can just use the consensus of the party. But the Democratic Party has got to get rid of Joe Biden. They cannot go into an election with him as the head of the ticket. They'll reelect 5 congressmen. I mean, they'll decimate themselves in the Senate. It's like a bomb goes off and every tree is toppled. This is such a disaster that they have to get rid of him. They just cannot stay there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Biden can do anything about it. I think they have the 25th Amendment,
Right.
and they'll use that to get him there.
We'll see how that takes shape tomorrow.
Yeah, there's some videos online of Jill helping him down off the podium. You see him here. He's kind of getting some support there. There'll be even more microscope of his performance tomorrow as it's dissected from alternate camera angles here. Let's go, Joe. Maybe go off the ticket.
Yeah, let's go away, Joe Biden. All right, we got to run. John McLaughlin, Dick Morris, gentlemen, great to see you both.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, let's welcome in White House and Washington reporter for Politico, Daniel Lippman, also with a senior political analyst, Rick Santorum. We were talking earlier, Daniel, about your publication, Politico. Their headline says Biden bombs. New York Post said Biden stumbles. Washington Post.
It just changed. Biden is toast.
Yes, Politico just changed their headline to Biden is toast. I mean, Daniel, there's no way you can polish this turd of a debate performance from Joe Biden.
And I wouldn't. And the sources I talked to, in Biden's administration that I was texting, they're all saying basically disaster, that they wouldn't be surprised if people start to go to Biden and say, hey, I think you have to kind of hang up the cleats. There's probably, I bet Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, they're all having these conversations with their political advisors. How do we approach Biden? And now basically the dam has broken in terms of Democrats did not want to go to him before to say, hey, don't pursue a second term. Now they all feel obligated to.
Senator Santorum, not only was Biden just hard to watch and frightening, as some say, is that, he seems very, very not in control of his facilities, his mind. But Trump, on the other hand, actually pretty reserved, got through some of his points that he wanted to without really, it was not contentious.
No, I thought Trump actually did a very good job. It's one of those things I think it was probably a big benefit that Biden went first, because Trump saw clearly someone who was not on their game on that first answer. I mean, it was almost a little scary. He just rambled so quickly and garbled his words. I mean, more than even. I mean, the first answer was worse as far as the tempo and the delivery was worse than any other answer. He just started off really badly, and I think Trump said, "Okay, I'm going to sit back and let this guy commit suicide," and he did.
Yeah,
He counterpunched which is what he had to do. He read the room. He counterpunched very effectively. He didn't take the bait, with the exception of, they asked a January 6th question. I think he responded brilliantly to it. But then they kept coming back, and he eventually took the bait. I don't think that was one of his better moments. But by then, the debate was over. The first half hour of the debate, everything that happened after that really didn't matter much. And really the question is, what can they do? And people are saying, oh, well, they'll go to him and he'll get out. Joe Biden is not someone who is easily deterred. This is a very proud man, a very narcissistic man. They're going to have to go to Jill. Jill's going to have to probably make the decision in some respects. But the other thing is, how can they do that? Right. How can they say that there's nothing wrong with Joe Biden up until last night, like today? But everything else was fine. There
I
was
think
really,
10 minutes ago in the spin room.
Yeah.
They were still saying it was great.
Yeah, but that's my point. You can't have this message that everything's fine. And this was just an off night. He has a cold. I mean,
yeah, that's what they were saying.
Don't be so sure that they're going to, throw him overboard or be successful in throwing overboard very, very quickly. And remember, absentee ballots are being printed in 70 days. So this is, and imagine going to a convention without a consensus in Chicago with the protests. This does not look good for the Democrats to have this kind of bloodbath in Chicago trying to pick a nominee if Biden gets out. There's no good exit strategy for them, is what I'm saying.
And what you're looking at right here,
Donald Trump, though.
Yeah, what you're looking at right here is like the afterglow of the Biden presidency. We got to run. Daniel Lippman, Rick Santorum, gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you both. Pleasure.
You bet.
Well, you watched it here, simulcast on Newsmax. Incredible night here. Much more analysis. We're going to take a very quick break. John and I will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Attention, all users of the Weed Killer Roundup. If you or a loved one were diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma after using the Weed Killer Roundup, you may qualify for financial compensation. Call Liberty Legal to determine your eligibility now.
800-549-4412.
In August 2021, a California judge ordered Monsanto to pay $87 million in damages to a couple who were both exposed to Roundup and later diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. It has been determined in court that Monsanto failed to warn Roundup users that the glyphosate in Roundup was a probable cancer-causing carcinogen. If you or a loved one were diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma or any other cancer after using Roundup, call Liberty Legal now to see if you qualify for financial compensation. There may be time deadlines, so don't wait. It costs you nothing if you don't win.
Call 800-549-4412. That's 800-549-4412. 800-549-4412.
How long? How long, guys?
Look, at the end of the day, our plan has not changed. Right? We are here to talk about strength. We are here to talk about restoring our southern border, restoring our economy. Yes, Flavia. You're dialed in too, right?
Come here. Yep. Come around.
All right, great to have you back.
We're back. It's live TV. It's debate night. And we're going to get out to Mike Carter right now, who's been in the spin room all day long, and he's still in the spin room tonight. Mike Carter, what do you got for us?
All right, guys, we've got Congressman Byron Donalds behind me, finishing up a press gaggle, hoping to grab him just a moment here. Let's listen in to the congressman.
What they were doing. And so, yes, he expounded about black jobs, but the reality is when you bring in massive amounts of people into our country illegally who are low-skilled or no-skilled, they actually depress the wage pool in the United States, and they take away jobs from people in our country who are trying to find their ways up the economic ladder. In our country, yes, that's black people, that's Hispanic people, that's white people. The president talked about black jobs and Hispanic jobs. If I'm now going back through your question, that is actually what he said. So if you're going to take offense to that, take offense to the fact that Joe Biden is the one that's crippling the economy for working families in this country. That's what they should take offense to. And if you're going to take offense to that, take offense to the fact that Joe Biden would rather have wide open borders that depress wages in an economy by Joe Biden where prices are massively up. How does that help black workers? How does that help Hispanic workers?
Congressman Donalds, after tonight, we saw what the president looked like tonight. He appeared to be very labored in his speech, very aggressive in his facial expressions. This was a very angry Joe Biden that we saw tonight. And also, some people are saying he looked under the weather. What did you make of the president optically? And what are the odds after tonight we have a second presidential debate in September?
Well, first of all, under the weather, man, that's spin coming from the Democrats. You know, when Michael Jordan had the flu, he still gave the Jazz 45 points. If you're that dude, you show up and perform. That's an excuse. This was a very sad thing to see from an American president because our adversaries are watching. And we can be in the spin room and we can talk politics, but when everybody turns the cameras off and we all leave this arena floor, our adversaries are watching. We got to have real leadership back in the White House. Joe Biden is not getting the job done. 8 days in Camp David, and that's what the American people see? Come on, man. We already know what everybody's really thinking about at home. It don't take much. And everybody here can spin and they can talk and they can play politics, but at the end of the day, Joe Biden doesn't deserve 4 more years. His agenda enough, he doesn't deserve 4 more years. You put it in context, you put it with that performance, not a good look.
Do you think the Democratic Party should replace him as the nominee?
That's for the Democrats to decide. I'm not getting into their business. I'm going to let them figure it out.
All right, a little bit from Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida. Look, the spin is clear. Democrats are trying to spin it as best as they can tonight. We heard from Senator Raphael Warnock, Governor Gavin Newsom. A lot of folks say could replace Joe Biden on the ticket. But look, Republicans have to feel good about their chances after tonight. And Joe Biden, I think, guys, our mouths dropped. There was an audible gasp in the media room. And here in the spin room, we were sitting up in the rafters here at the pavilion. About 10 minutes in, when Joe Biden lost his train of thought, we were all expecting some moment like that of happening. And when it did, it seemed to be the culmination of that first 10 minutes of the president just not bringing his A game tonight. And as you can see, Congressman Donalds, a lot of Republicans here tonight feel very good about how tonight unfolded.
Yeah.
Back to you.
As they should. Mike Carter, great job out there in the spin room. We'll let you keep at it.
Yeah, we haven't seen that A game for a long time. Let's welcome in now GOP strategist Mahek Cook and Communications Director for the America First Policy Institute, Hilton Beckham. Great to have you both here with us.
Thanks, guys.
I'd like to start, Mahek, as an attorney, we've covered a lot of the lawfare here. I think Donald Trump did a really good job tonight to talk about the weaponization of the government and not come off as, they wanted to obviously paint him as vengeful. But he was very, I think, even keeled to call into, why he's running for president and the fact that he's been indicted and may not have been if he wasn't on that debate stage tonight. Your takeaways when it comes to the weaponization and how Trump v. Biden tonight played out in front of the world.
Bianca, President Biden was measured and he was very thoughtful when he addressed the American people. He wasn't defensive. And what I found so telling is when he said if Biden was doing a good job, he wouldn't be running for president. He would be continuing to live his life, even playing golf. You heard about how good he was at his golf game. But instead, he's been pulled off the golf course, away from his family to come back and save America. And the lawfare that we're witnessing and we're watching, if it can happen to President Trump, it can happen to anybody. He didn't use fear tactics. He spoke plainly to the American people. Even with that gag order, he was still able to speak and tell everybody that he's here to fight for democracy. And the biggest threat to democracy that now majority of Americans, even in polling, are saying is Joe Biden.
Yeah, I just find it stunning because anything he said could be held against him in a court of law, as they said, and he won the debate.
Yeah.
The person who had all this time resting.
Going back to what Mahek was saying about the golf, I mean, it's so ridiculous that of all the things that he lied about tonight, Joe Biden lied about his handicap. He's not a 6 handicap. There's no way. And that's what my friends were texting me about. That was the thing. They just couldn't get it past. My non-political friends could not get past that. They play golf.
Did you notice they unmuted Donald Trump's mic so he could respond in that moment, too? I was like, even CNN knows this is some good TV right now.
And we might not get a second debate, but maybe we'll get that golf match. All right, Hilton, I want to take a look here at one of the moments from the debate, and we'll talk about it on the other side. Here it is.
There's a lot of young women being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border.
This is where I think Donald Trump, Hilton, where he really, his preparation came in, because he could have jumped on that line from Joe Biden, that nonsensical line about people getting raped by their brothers and sisters, whatever that was about. For abortion. But Donald Trump didn't respond to that. He took the question back into substance.
Yeah, that line, honestly, that was probably one of the most pivotal and most potent lines of the night, because abortion is the Democrats' hot topic. That's what they're supposed to win on. That's what they win women over with. And Biden took that question and first started off talking about how the woman was killed by an illegal alien, which just gives a layup for Trump to take and run with, and then starts talking about how women are getting raped by their brothers and sisters. Yes, Trump, this is the Trump we love. He's calm and collected. He took the line and took what he could build off of it and talked about the open borders that Biden has enforced that is killing women and raping women across this country. So yes, love how Trump responded to that, but such an epic failure by Biden missing this abortion question.
And Donald Trump also did the thing that he had to do on abortion tonight, was make Democrats look like the extremists. He did that very effectively, talking about late-term abortion, and Joe Biden had no response from that. That was very effective. All right. I think we got to wrap it up there, ladies, but it's been great to have you here for a brief interview, post-debate. McCack Cook and Hilton Beckham, thank you guys.
Thanks, guys, so much.
Great to see you both. Thank you. We're still looking at the Joe Biden post-debate gathering.
He probably doesn't want to go to bed, Bianca, because when he wakes up tomorrow morning,
I don't know.
It's going to be over.
They don't have a lot to celebrate, though, but there are some people, I guess, still feeling that they want to hang out a little bit longer.
This is part of the spin. This is the image that they want us to see, even though the debate was such a disaster. We'll be right back after this.
We're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
Does the state of this economy have your head spinning? Let American Medical Plans relieve one burden, health insurance. American Medical Plans specializes in under 65 health insurance plans that have zero copays and no deductibles. You choose your doctors and hospitals. These plans have nothing to do with your income and are 30 to 60% less than Obamacare. If you're paying too much for your own health insurance, call American Medical Plans. You deserve better. They will customize a plan managed by you, not the government.
Welcome back. We are analyzing the train wreck that was Joe Biden on a debate stage tonight, but apparently some folks didn't get the memo. They are still standing by him in Atlanta. Well, this is sort of the spin room, the side-off spin room. A lot of Democrats already in panic over what they watched. Joe Biden, after spending days at Camp David, comes out from really the start, John. Raspy voice, not in full control or command of his speech. And then on the other side, Donald Trump doesn't really go too aggressive or hard, just stays measured, stays on his subject, stays on his topics. And it didn't even matter really who was moderating tonight. I thought that it was
you got to give it to for all of the concern we raised about Dana Bash and Jake Tapper, and there's certainly reams of evidence to be concerned about. I think they did a strong job tonight. They were fair. I thought the setup actually worked very well with the microphones.
It went well for them too, because they couldn't say it ran away from them because there was no audience. But
the key, I think, and having moderated a debate before, the key is to stick to your note cards. Don't get off your note cards. Stick to the questions. You have a lot of researchers working with you on those questions. Trust your staff. And I, again, I give a lot of credit to Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. They did a great job tonight.
Well, let's just see now what our experts say about what could be coming down the road, and that may be potentially swapping out Joe Biden. Yes, the talk is already on. We have right now Aaron Perini, GOP strategist, and also Newsmax host Rob Astorino joining us right now, live from our New York studios. All right, guys, welcome and great to have you. John and I were watching the debate. We've been, kind of analyzing this. Rob, do they swap Joe out? I mean, he has to agree to it. And we see Joe Biden there, clapping and up a storm post-debate. I don't think he's going to want to leave.
Well, no, I'm sure he doesn't want to leave, but someone's going to have an honest conversation with him. I mean, America has basically told him, after the comments we've seen on Twitter and everywhere else, that his debate performance was horrible. And they were able to hide him during the campaign in 2020 in the basement. It was all about Donald Trump. And then for the last 4 years, they've shielded him on just about everything, right? And for the first time, a lot of Americans were seeing what our viewers and other, maybe a few other networks have shown. But by and large, MSNBC, CNN, they haven't shown the real clips of Joe Biden meandering. So this was an eye-opener for, I think, a lot of people, and it was shocking. But that's the Joe Biden that we have seen deteriorate rapidly over the last 4 years. I think tonight is inevitable. We've reached an inevitable point. It's inevitable that he will either be swapped out at the convention and not get the nomination, or that he's going to lose. I mean, I don't know how you recover from something like this.
One of the things that compounds how bad tonight actually is and is going to be is what the White House tried to do with the whole cheap fake terminology that they rolled out. Because it just to your point, Rob, and Aaron, you can talk about this too, it makes tonight look that much worse when they were telling us all those things we've been seeing, we weren't actually seeing.
I mean, that's 100% true. The White House, not only whether it's policy or what you actually see out of the president, has said, don't believe your lying eyes, whether it's Joe Biden stumbling or forgetting or whatever the case may be. And I want to remind viewers of this. When it has come to Joe Biden's age up to this point, it has been baked into the polling. Americans know that he is an old man. They understand that. And so when they've been making their decision in this polling so far, they've understood that. But this was a whole new side of the president. A lot of the American people haven't seen, to Rob's point about that. And so this, I think, will have a cataclysmic repercussion on polling, not only for Joe Biden, but I bet you for RFK as well. If RFK, and Rob and I were talking about this earlier, if RFK had been on that stage, he would have said, this is why I'm here. There's a reason I'm here. And in polling, RFK has pulled support from both Biden and Trump, kind of equally. It goes back and forth in polls. I bet you now Biden's numbers are going to go down. Some people might go to Trump, but I bet you RFK's numbers are going to come up, and he's going to say, let's do another debate. RFK is going to say it, and I'm going to make it this time.
Access, is he there? Because he, they've been submitting signatures and then they have to be certified, but ballot access has been sort of the question around RFK Jr., and he had his own counter programming tonight as well that I think was an interesting way for his campaign to say, we still want to be part of whatever is happening tonight as well to get our message out. Rob.
Yeah, well, but they're going to be overshadowed by, and so is Trump a little bit tonight, by the performance by Joe Biden. I mean, that's what everyone will be talking about now for the next several days, which, by the way, helps Donald Trump. And if I'm Donald Trump, I don't want anything to change. I want it to be me against Joe Biden. That's exactly, I don't want, a wild card to come in here and shake things up. You never know what will happen. The train right now is on the right track. And look, I've been befuddled by the polling numbers. They're defying gravity to me. When 2/3 of Americans are saying we're on the wrong track, that things are going bad, inflation's the #1 issue along with the immigration issue, all things that help Republicans and Donald Trump. When the generic ballot is just about tied with Republicans and Democrats, you hardly ever see that. When black support and Hispanic support are at all-time highs for Donald Trump, how in God's name is it basically even in some of these national polls? That doesn't make sense to me. So I think, again, a lot was exposed tonight, and a lot's going to change tonight.
You guys have all been doing this a long time, and I think the reason why a lot of people don't even tune into the presidential election until after Labor Day. But what's going to happen, I think, because of this accelerated debate calendar, whatever you want to call it, this is going to be the hard launch for a lot of people tuning in. This is going to be their first exposure to the campaign. And if they haven't really been paying attention, this is the first thing they're going to see is like, oh my gosh, it's way worse than you could imagine. This is our actual president of the United States. I think a lot of people could watch this tonight and say, this is the commander in chief. It's scary to see someone up there with that little command of the stage like that.
Right, exactly, because if they've been watching and the Kool-Aid over at MSDNC and CNN, they're saying, yeah, what is the sort of media manipulation, and then they're seeing it with their own eyes real time. Does this play into who Donald Trump says he knows who his VP is, okay? Maybe he already does. There were a bunch of people there we thought could have been the VP. Because Joe Biden was so terrible tonight, does he tweak maybe, since we don't really know who his VP was? Does this weigh in at all? What do you think, Aaron? Does it matter who the VP is?
That could be a possibility that maybe he makes a different calculation, but electorally speaking, of those who were there tonight, there's not one of them that I think really brings another state into play or would really electorally change the map. So for Trump, this is more about who can help support his agenda, help him on Capitol Hill, because obviously the vice president is the president of the Senate, who can help him fundraise through the rest of the campaign cycle. So I actually think the only way this would change a VP choice for Trump is if someone does very well in the spin room tonight, does very well on TV tonight, or somehow starts dialing for dollars. And if I'm a VP contender, I would start dialing for dollars right now and seeing how much you can bring in for Trump after that debate performance to maybe lift yourself up in the possibility of becoming a VP nominee.
Although I think fundraising got a lot easier tonight.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably, yeah, you should keep it. I think that's a very good point by Rob here. This is a big night, and a big news night is usually a good fundraising night for campaigns. The Trump campaign in 20, when I was on it, we used to put out fundraising numbers within 24 hours a lot. The 24 campaign has been more slow to do that. They haven't done that as much. I will not be surprised to see what the fundraising numbers look like within the next 24, 36, 48 hours for Donald Trump.
For both.
Because
I think you're going to see Joe Biden's going to dry up, too.
Biden's not going to put out numbers.
Right.
The cash on hand, Trump was winning in that regard.
All right, we're going to have more with Aaron and Rob Astorino in just a second. But real quick, here's a message from our own Greg Kelly.
Newsmax is continuing to grow, and it's thanks to our viewers like yourself and millions of other Americans that are turning off old media for new media. Now, you probably heard that Newsmax is planning to go public later this year or early next. That story has made national headlines in places like the Wall Street Journal and other major financial outlets. Last week, Reuters conducted a study that found Newsmax was one of the top 12 news brands in the United States. It's a major accomplishment, and it's clear Americans are switching to real news. Now, if you want to join us and find out how you can invest in Newsmax and become a shareholder, to partner with us, go to NEWSMAX2.com. You'll find out not only about the IPO, but also how you can buy shares now and even get a 7% dividend. It's big news, so check it out at NEWSMAX2.com, and please let your family and friends know about it too. Many thanks.